What's up, ladies and gentlemen? This is DH Thorne.
That's cool. I like that. What's up, ladies and gentlemen? This is DH Thorne with your best buddy, the Flesh Priest, coming at you. We're all together. We're all hanging out. And hopefully this will be working. Hopefully I'll get the sound check girl to tell me that I'm doing it right. And
You know,
what's up,
I
everybody?
I appreciate the chance for meditation there because we talked about this last stream where I'm really bad with meditation. I just realized sitting in silence here for a minute just, yeah, I could do that real quick. Yeah, okay. Just wait for his voice and meditation over. Stream
Meditation
starts.
over. It's actually, that it's pretty wild actually. That's sort of a story to tell I want to get to in a minute. But the creation of that mantra that you guys just heard um, just kind of happened last night while I was getting inspiration to write. And I actually have to thank, hopefully he shows up tonight. I haven't seen him in a little while, but I know he likes watching. I actually have to thank, and remind me if you see him, if Behemoth X shows up. Behemoth X actually, with his latest video, New Beginnings, or I forget the exact name of it, but I think that was what it was. Watching Behemoth X, something about it, watching that video and his down-to-earth mentality about all of these things really just kind of drove home some things I've been missing for a few months. And some of the reasons why I've been kind of out of it, we'll say. Like, especially the last streams where I've been like, we'll say overly hyped, overly energetic, constantly talking about here, buy this, buy that. And, watching Behemoth X helped me recenter a little bit. And I remembered some of my packs, and I remember some of the things that I had done, because so much has been just kind of dropped on the field, right? Like after the election season and everything else, and with everything to do with the COVID stuff going on, and it just kind of got hard for me to focus on things that I once thought were the most important things in a day. And it just became, like root chakra got destabilized, and I ended up feeling like I've got to handle this, I got to handle that. I know better, but I can't get myself out of the different problems. And so after watching Behemoth X, and I really hope he shows up tonight. He probably won't because he's in the middle of a move. But if anybody talks to him, if anybody knows him, tell him I really appreciated that last video in particular. But after watching that video, I just started writing again. And I was like, I'm just going to write. And it finally dawned on me what I want to write next. It finally dawned on me what to do. I kind of realized that I was being a little whiny bitch when it came to the fact that a lot of things, really, but in particular, one of the things that I felt like a whiny little bitch about was that most of my audience is very interested in the stories of what happens with magic and working with spirits and all of that stuff, and they're not that into being lectured on how to do it, right? Although to me that's like the big thing, like that's the woo the fuck who part. I love I'm all right, maybe not much, but I love nerding out on it. Actually, personally, I don't like and you know what, Flesh, that gives me an idea for tonight's episode, but let me finish this thought. I don't generally like hearing people's stories as much as I like the methods and things, because the stories I feel like are subjective and meant for them. But I realize a lot of my audience really gets into these stories and what happened and how I came to different conclusions. And so I started writing, I shouldn't say started. I went back to something I had started months ago. And it's something that's sort of a combination of memoir, fiction, nonfiction. It's kind of all over the place. But it's essentially taking all of the experiences I've had since the beginning of 2018, the end of 2018, when I got back into this stuff and started actually focusing on it, and all of the different rituals and things, and sprucing them up, obviously, so that they make for good stories. I'm not just going to, take my journals and transcribe them where it's like, hour 4, touched myself on the nose and magic happened. I'm not going to do that. I want it to be, something you can read and enjoy, but contains the truth. I want it to be something where it embellishes to make it pretty, but it is the truth. So I'm not going to say, oh, something just kind of flew around the room if it didn't fly around the room, but I will talk about everything I saw, and I will dress it up, of course, to make it good. So some of this stuff is stuff you might know. If you've been following me from the beginning, it's Some of it's been discussed in videos. Some of it has been touched on in blogs. But I will be basically turning it cooler. It'll be more like a story, but it's not a story. It'll be a storified version of what I experienced the last 2 years. And each chapter, there'll probably be multiple chapters, of course. There'll be like, I'll probably call them the book of such and such spirit, and then within the book will be 2 or 3 or 4 chapters each for that spirit. And there might be multiple books for a spirit. So I will go through things in more or less chronological order of how I experienced them and what that meant to me. And so far, the chapters that I've written are, with editing, of course, it's going to need editing, but what I've written so far, I'm loving. I'm loving reading it. It's pulling me right back to what I forgot. It's pulling me right back to where I was when I was in 2018. And hopefully it will make me a little bit more down to earth and sinister. Actually sinister, yes. Sinister and sincere again. Because I feel like for a while, it's just been like a job for like the last 3 or 4 months. It's just felt like doing all of this has just been a job. It's just, a thing that we do to make a little bit of money, and the spiritual part kind of just fades into the background. And I think that's one of the biggest risks of doing this is, doing this professionally, I should say, is that sooner or later burnout happens, or you have a down day, or you're not into it, but you still got deadlines to meet. You still have videos you got to make. You still got bills to pay. And so you will have nothing that's inspiring you, nothing that you want to do, nothing you want to talk about, no enlightenment to claim that you have experienced. But here you are, and you've got to somehow provide content and be interesting. And if people don't find that interesting, they're not going to buy your products, they're not going to buy your books, they're not going to support your Patreon, they're not going to want to be your student. And so it's a vicious cycle, and it's a dirty circle, because at some point you kind of get stuck where, how do I support myself on my interests if I'm not interested in them right now? So here we go, we're a little bit more back, right? We've kind of had a reset in my heart and mind. Hopefully it sticks. And a reignition of things that I had not lost, but that I'd put down. And as usual, Lucifer is one of those spirits that reignites that passion. So as I was sitting down to write last night, I started writing, and it was right after listening to Behemoth X's video. And again, make sure you jump there if you haven't watched his video. And I actually want to touch on some things he said too, but right after watching that video, I'm mesmerized by his beautiful necklace. He's got basically the same one I have. I don't know if his is made of silver or something. It's almost the same, but I've got a Lucifer sigil necklace. I've had it for a long time, and he's wearing it, and he's looking like a badass. And he and I both have a pretty cool look. I like to think we both look like cool dudes. And I'm watching him like, yeah, he's one of the people, like, besides EA, right? EA is another one, but the two of them absolutely inspire me, right? And watching Behemoth X re-inspired me a little bit. And so while writing, I suddenly went, you know what he has? He's got this really cool Lucifer chant. I want to, not to upstage the guy, I want to make one that I can feel is as good or better than his. I want to make one where it's like, here I am calling myself a chosen Lucifer. I want to make one that's badass. And so I went and I wasn't sure what I was going to do. It just started off like an ambient track, just a little bit of a drum, just a little thump, 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 and then a tone or two. It's really just 3 tracks of sound effects stuff. And then I was like, well, what am I going to say? And then I said, you know what? You've got an invocation in your grimoire that nobody knows. It's based, so your tapestry, the Lucifer tapestry, is based on it, but nobody knows this full mantra that I use. And I don't often do it in video, this mantra, because of the way it's done. I just never felt like doing it. It just felt like I didn't want to. But it's basically based on the way certain traditions will do mantras or sutras, where they basically, they tap something, like sometimes I have like a little drum and they tap it, and it just kind of goes thump, 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 and they keep the rhythm. And it's supposed to be basically, a little bit more than your heart rate. It's supposed to be a reasonably fast heart rate. And it's going thump, 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 and you're supposed to, every syllable is supposed to coincide more or less, in between the thumbs, or as part of the thumbs. So, it's kind of like, everybody knows that joke where like the person's mad at you, like, stop doing that thing. Well, it's basically like that. And you keep time with it. And this allows you to kind of transcend your tendency to speak in a rational way, if that makes sense. And you can kind of start focusing on the words themselves and the pictures they paint without worrying about making it sound good as speech. So as you're doing that, you just keep time with it, and you keep a monotone, and you're intoning. It's not just speech, it's an intonation, and you go deep inside yourself, and you get like a rhythm going, and it's basically playing the drum with your words. And as I'm doing it, I'm like, that's actually a badass idea. What if I did that and then put all kinds of cool vocal effects on it, and put all kinds of yeah, I think Stealth Fighter's got to go. Some mod want to get rid of Stealth Fighter. I had enough of the snarky comments and jokes. Please take care of Stealth Fighter if you don't mind. But anyway, basically this allows you, as I'm trying to say, is you get into like that same state. Anybody does like drum sessions, it puts you into kind of like a state of mind where you're just kind of like zoned in. And that's what this does. So I said, what if I record this and put some cool sound effects on it and just make it sound good? Put some echoes and some reverbs and play with the tonal shifts, so that I've got one of me going a regular voice and then one of me, I guess, what would it be, 7 octaves? Or how do you go from like C to C? Well, whatever, it's like 7.
That's 1 octave.
That's 1 octave. Okay, so I bring it down like 7 all the way down. So yeah, so 7. So I guess, yeah, so that's you're saying that's 1 octave all the way 7 shifts? Yeah, so.
Going down by 7 tones would not be a full octave. That would be 7 steps.
Okay. So I'll have to show you in my program how I did it. It's not hard. It's the, it's like one little button. You click it down. So it gives you that cool demon, overly deep sound, right? But it's also the same note that you were singing the first time. So I did that, and I put the same effects on them, and something really weird happened. Somehow emerging out of that balance, a feminine voice appeared. And it's a very melodic voice. If you listen to it, it's kind of like those videos where the person will say bathtub and behemoth, and it'll be like, which one do you hear? It's kind of like that. It's kind of like that because it makes it seem like there's a third voice in there, and I'm promising you, I can show you the file flash. There's no extra file of my voice. There's 2, and they're both men, and one of them is just a very high melodic going along with it. I'm like, whoa, that's trippy as hell. So I was really, 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 really into it. And when I finished it, I added a binaural theta attached to it so that there was some, we'll say, it kind of gives it some sharpness to penetrate you a little bit.
And speaking of this, Jennifer Vatsa, the great and powerful, with the super chat says, Lucifer mantra, F yeah, loved it.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you so much. That's the thing, like my audio tracks,
Jen.
people don't necessarily jump on those, but the people who like them, they know why. Well, anyway, he says they're called ghost frequencies or harmonics. Thank you, Anya Chakra, my friend. I love seeing that name. Those are called ghost frequencies or ghost harmonics. Good point. Good point. You hear that, Jen? That might be what it is. But Jen, did you hear the female sounding voice in it? A lot of people I asked said they hear it. And yeah, Anton Erickson just says, I totally heard that. Absolutely love the video. So maybe that's what it is. Maybe Flesh, you're the audio guy. You and Eddie are the audio people. I want you guys, when you get a chance to listen to it, and tell me what you think might have caused it. I'm not saying it's supernatural, but it was trippy when I'm like, who the fuck was singing in the background? It sounds like some little girl going, la, 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 like singing along with them. Like, that is trippy. Because Lucifer often manifests for me in visions, both as a male, but sometimes as a young girl. And I don't know why a young girl is often one form he takes, but he does. And it's wild when he does, because it's something completely different, right, than what I expect when I think of him. So I don't know what the deal is with that. And maybe it was something my voice was doing, but I can show Flesh. I can probably put it on the screen right now, the file, and you can see that it's only got two tracks for the audio. I don't know what.
Yeah, can you send me the wave of that?
I put the original MP3 on Discord because it's a half hour long. I'll have to send you a screenshot.
Yeah.
I'll have to send you a screenshot of it.
MP3 will be good enough.
Okay.
Yeah, half hour long. I'm not going to work with an uncompressed file for that.
Yeah. So if you go into on Discord, it's in the Arts and Crafts channel. You'll see it there. And for those of you who are on Discord who want to download it, I don't normally do this, but those of you who are on Discord, go ahead and grab that if you want it. It's a half hour long. You never have to go back to my YouTube again. But of course, I could use the views on YouTube, so I do appreciate if you watch the video too. But feel free to grab it from there. It's a shareable file. You guys can have it. It's my gift to the world. But so I'm listening to that as I'm writing. Or I start writing, I should say, while it's processing on my video creator program that I use. I'm listening to the file because I'm just into it. And I'm just writing away, and my fingers are starting to hurt because I haven't written this much in a long time. My fingers are pounding away, and I felt great. And it felt great to get it out. I think I told you around 20 pages in the last 2 days, which is good. So the word count is ballooning again, and it's nice because I'm hoping this will be a full-length or near full-length, like novel-sized book. And if I finish it, which I shouldn't even say that, I'm pretty committed to this one. But if I finish it, it's not going to be a grimoire. It's not going to be, here's this, here's that, go work with the spirit, go do this, here's a ritual you can do, turn yourself around like a teapot, tip yourself over. Nothing like that. This is going to be more like stuff that people appreciate from my Demon in Review stories. And it's going to be basically Demon in Review style stuff with my thoughts. Anything that I experience while working with that spirit or when reviewing the journal notes of that spirit. So if I'm going through my journals, whatever form that is, whether it's my blog posts, my videos, any thoughts I have while reviewing that stuff also count. And I put that in as well. So the last thing I did was talking about Nyarlathotep, which is a really cool kind of spirit. And I was trying to explain in this story how and why something like that could be real. Like what makes it real and what doesn't. And I think what I put in there is worth reading. Maybe I'll put it up. Maybe I'll get into it in a little bit and read it, or at least summarize it. But it was some of the maybe the nerdiest thing I've ever written in a way. In a way, it was anyway. But it was perfect. Like I was very happy with the logic and the reasoning. Now maybe it's not the best explanation anyone's ever made, but to me it was the one, because that's basically how I rationalized Nyarlathotep when it began. Knowing what I know, knowing that Nyarlathotep is a fantasy. How can we work with that? And it dawned on me, and this is probably the biggest lesson from this investigation when I was writing, was that knowing what I know in a non-dualistic sense, knowing that we are that there is a reality, but the reality we understand is idealized. It's something that is not real. And you're a story just like Nyarlathotep is. You're no different. You think you're different because it's intimate with you. But you're a story that you've been told by your family, your friends, yourself. You've invented a story about who you are, but that's not who you are. That's who you think you are. And this story that you think you are, as you're sitting there enjoying that story, you look at other stories like Superman and go, oh, that's just a story. There's nothing to Superman. Well, if you think about it, Superman is actually, and I want you, are you sitting down? Hold on. Superman is actually more real. And I mean this. Superman is actually more real than pretty much anybody you've ever met. And I can say that with confidence because Superman has influenced the world way more than you have. If our measure for reality is how it interacts phenomenologically with the rest of the world, if I know that this fire is real because it makes fire, if it hurts, it burns. If I know that this smoke is real because I see it wafting and it's doing things and I can pick it up on the meter. Well, the story of Superman is no less real. In fact, it's more real than you are because the story that you are has done a lot less in terms of scope. Superman has influenced the world way more as an idea than you have as a flesh and blood person walking around. Even someone like the president, even someone like, unless we're talking about an ancient figure that's manipulated, that's been part of the world. Someone like Caesar or something, like Julius Caesar maybe. Right?
Illustrious Pharaoh OTL with the super chat says, I've experienced Lucifer as feminine as well.
Fuck yeah. I think a lot of people have. I think that's one of the cool things about Lucifer. And I think that's why some people have said that there is maybe some connection between Lucifer and Lilith, that they might be the same ultimate being, the same archetype, but in the masculine and feminine incarnation. And I don't hate that Because what I was getting at too was that as we're paring down and splitting apart what we think a being is, like I was talking about, as we're doing that, as we're talking about what a spirit is and how, if it's real or not, and as I'm saying to you that Superman's more real than you are because it's had more of an influence on the world, what's really had the influence though is not the story of Superman with the blue suit and the red cape and all of those little details that he's from Krypton. The thing that has had the most influence on the world is the archetype itself behind Superman. I'm not going to wait, but I want you guys in the chat. What is the archetype of Superman? Give me some examples of what you think it is. Okay, what is Superman as an archetype? If you know what archetypes are, what is the archetype of Superman? That archetype
First thing I would
is
say
not
is
new.
powerful.
Well, yeah, powerful, but yes, but that's not maybe the archetype that makes him unique, because Superman is also, let's say, well, he's heroic, right? That's number one. He's a hero, and he's not just a hero. He is the ultimate. He's like the superego or whatever. He is like the ultimate expression of the good guy. He will never kill, murder, rape, steal, lie, none of that stuff. Certainly not on purpose, and probably never by accident. He will die before he will do those things. He's virtually flawless, right? Eddie, I love you, Eddie. Good catch. Pretty good catch anyway. But that's not what I meant. Apollo is also an archetype for something, isn't he? Apollo is also an archetype for something. Apollo is a word, it's a name, and it's a bunch of stuff that dresses up the words and the names. But what is it behind? What is it behind Apollo? What is behind that incarnation? Because it has appeared in multiple cultures, and it goes beyond our discussion about Pi, the Proto-Indo-European culture. It goes beyond that, because that may be true that all of these stories have a similar origin because they're from the same proto-culture. But the archetypes, the Jungian archetypes, the Joseph Campbell style archetypes, are the actual source of these beings, because that is what the beings are used to dress. That's why I call them archetypal masks. That's why I call them egregores and tulpa, because they are things that are worn like clothing over an archetype. They're the things that flesh the archetypes out. What's an archetype without the story that puts it into context? So if you have a hero, what makes them heroic? Right?
It's fighting all the bad guys. It's
fighting all the bad guys, sacrifice, all the good shit. All the good shit. So yes, Eddie gets it. He's the hero archetype. And one thing I don't like about Jung is I don't want to go with his system of archetypes, but his principle, the idea of archetypes. The reason I don't like go with his system is because the archetypes that he speaks of may shift and change over time as culture and identity shifts and change. So what's a hero to a human being? Well, cats don't have heroes, right? So there must be probably something that might be considered cosmic archetypes as well, not just archetypes of human experience. There might be cosmic archetypes. Now, that's not quite where I'm going with this. I'm not saying that Lucifer is necessarily a cosmic archetype, but the things that Lucifer and Lilith, by almost equal proportion, almost equal, by the way, is this idea of cosmic rebellion. It is the ultimate rebel against whatever is trying to sit in lordship and authority over you, including your own ego stuff, even your own bullshit. And, he's seen as a bad guy by every culture because he what does he do in every case? Lucifer is always in opposition to whatever's in control. But he's not contrarian. It's not that he's contrarian. Contrarian is something different. I don't want you to confuse that. But he's absolutely contrarian to only those things that would be in authority over him. He's not contrarian to just because it's light, he wants it dark, or just because it's dark, he wants it light. A lot of idiots, I'm going to say that's kindness, calling them idiots. A lot of idiots misunderstand the concept of the adversary to mean that whatever is said, you have to counter it. That's not the point of the adversary. The point of the adversary is actually one of deconstruction. It's actually to take a thing that you believe and test it. Test it with the most difficult possible tests to really see if it's real. And that is a very adversarial approach. And Lucifer is one of those adversarial archetypes. In other words, if we say the adversary is maybe the bigger archetype, there's the adversarial, part that's maybe mean and wrathful and blah, 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 blah. But then there's adversarial honesty, adversarial truth, adversarial light, adversarial freedom, adversarial rebellion. And Lucifer would be that adversarial rebellion. And Eddie's making some comment about the Order of Nine Angles, which I don't know much about. And if I'm hitting on anything they say, that would be just a happening. It's not a thing I did on purpose. I don't know much about them, but there's a whole bunch of stuff to do with Nazis with them. I've heard. I don't know if it's true, and I'm not really jumping on it. But my point is though. So what is Lucifer then? Is Lucifer the guy with wings falling from heaven that God got mad at and cast out? That's stupid. I'm sorry if you believe that. I'm not insulting you. Okay, I'm insulting the idea that that's what it was. Okay, because it's provably not that. It's never been that. It is rather this archetype that sits behind all of that inspires the story of an angel that was prideful and got kicked out of heaven. It's the archetype that came first. So that is where I'm going with this next work, at least the part that I'm writing anyway. There's going to be a lot more going on. There'll probably be a chapter or a section for most of the spirits I've done in Demon in Review. So Victorious, if you're going to look up Order 9 Angles, definitely look it up. Don't just take what I said. I'm not one of them. I know some people who I believe think they know who they are, and people that have been in it. Some published authors that people probably read were supposedly in them, and there's a lot of terroristic associations, supposedly. Again, it's all alleged. I have no idea. I'm not involved with them. I don't know if I ever would be. I'm not interested in joining orders and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Okay, so Eddie's saying, yeah, no, O9A are the knee-jerk contrarians. Okay, I got you. So, and that's just what these archetypes are. And each one of us, as an individual, by the way, remember when I said before that you're not maybe as real as Superman? The issue is that you are also somewhere at the end of a long chain of things are the archetype. There is an archetype that you are. And Jung would say that we go through different archetypes through our life, and I think that's right. But I think that as archetypes, we are very powerful, but we are the extensions, just like the spirits are. So Lucifer is an extension of the cosmic rebel, the adversarial cosmic rebel. Probably my favorite incarnation of the adversary that exists. Satan's pretty cool too, and I plan on doing more with the literal Satan. But it's the archetype of Lucifer that I really enjoy. And Lucifer is just another extension of that archetype. There have been several. People will claim Loki, for example, is an archetype of that same adversarial rebel, but he's more of a trickster, so I don't quite count him as the same exact. But he's definitely in that adversarial archetype. So when we say adversary is this big, Venn diagram, adversary contains all of them, all of these specific spirits. And you have Loki or Loki, you have Lucifer, you have Enki, you have Poseidon to a degree because he is adversarial somewhat to Zeus, and Neptune and Jupiter and so on. So not that they're enemies, but that there's an adversarialism going on. There's a contest. There's a little bit of an attempt to liberate or to prove and test that which is there. So it's not a perfect analogy, but yes, and Set's another good example, of course. So all of these bad guys, Ashmadeva, the original counterpart, when you have in Zoroaster, you have Zoroaster and oh, for goodness sake. But you get my point. All these adversarial spirits, right? That's what they're doing. And those of us who were really, really, Jennifer Voss, Jen, what's an adversarial bath? What does that even mean? I hate you, hoo-hoo, and just like what is that? Like, what are you using, like pumice instead of a sponge? Like, what are you doing, woman? An adversarial bath. That's gonna be the new bathwater. Adversarial. Adversarial bathwater. I was really
curious about what that meant.
We love Jen. Jen's awesome. Sense of humor like very few people. Actually, we had a great time this past weekend with the movie, didn't we? Jen was there. Eddie was there. A lot of people were there. I think it was Eddie who suggested. It was either Jen or Eddie who suggested. I forget. But we watched Return of
Return of the Living Dead?
Yeah, Return of the Living Dead, which I've never seen all the way through. I've only seen the graveyard scene and the Tarman scenes a few times. But
Yeah, that was just my first experience all around.
Yeah, it was actually better than I was expecting. Like, oh, this is going to just be horrible. This is just going to be a bad sex, drugs, alcohol, boom, bang, bang. No, it was campy. It was great. There was a lot of little nuance. It was good shit. A lot of little quotes and little hidden things, little gems. Eddie pointed out like all the different little Nazi throwbacks in the one character's stuff going on in the background. Fantastic. Good shit. So it's actually a much better movie than I thought it was. We had a great time watching that. We were all laughing by the end of it. So I think we're going to be doing that again, not this weekend, but maybe next weekend, I think is the tentative plan. I forget. Or was it this weekend?
I think it's next weekend. I don't know. I'm on Black Magic time. Which is to say, it's not real. It just happens when it happens. I think.
I'm not even sure what day it is right now.
Not this weekend, but next weekend, we'll either do a game or a movie.
Yeah, I don't. If anybody remembers what we said, it would help. But I think we're going to do it. Not this weekend because that's too soon. I feel like I need more time. But I think next weekend we'll tentatively plan for another game/movie night. We don't know which. I'm kind of in the mood for a movie again, though. To be honest with you,
I actually am too.
Yeah,
I was thinking that we'd cycle back and forth, but I want to watch another movie. Those are fun. They're a lot more stress-free.
They're stress-free. They're fun, and we can always play games like before, during, and after. Like if it's like boring or something. You know, if it's a shorter movie, like a 90-minute movie or a 70-minute movie, we can always watch the movie and then jump on to something. There's always something we can do. So, yeah, a week from this weekend. So a week from Saturday for sure, probably, unless somebody catches on fire between now and then. We'll do it. So, so anyway, guys, that's kind of where I wanted to start this and kind of start on that because I really want to get off my chest. I really want to talk about those things and, you know, just remember my place. Remember who I am, what I'm doing here, why I'm doing it. You know, because the spirits told me a long time ago. They gave me a message once. And they said, you know, so long as you're being sincere, we will ensure that what you're doing prospers. So long as that's what it's about. If I get too businesslike, they're not going to stand in my way, but it's not going to work as well. I just have to trust what's going on and just do what I'm doing. And if I make money, I make money. And if I don't, I don't. And that's how I got successful because I did it for the love, just like any good musician. So we're actually only going to be doing the buy our crap portion later at the end with, of course, the nod. Check my link in the description if you want to help us out. But we'll do buy our crap later. There's not any crap I want to sell right now anyway, but you get what I'm saying. So now that I have said my speech, Lord Flesh of the Priests, speaketh your mind.
This is a throwback to earlier, and because I've got drumming on the mind because my E-drum finally came in. The thing you were saying about the mantra being, you know, a syllable with every strike of your drum, that makes me kind of excited. Now I want to just send you some drum tracks and have you just belt out some stuff over them.
No, because I know what you're going to do. You're going to give me some freaking high-speed metal. And I'm going to have to no. That's something for Ace the Goblin.
Yeah, Ace could handle that. No,
by the way, I just saw your hand motion now, by the way. I just saw your hand motion. I didn't see that before. That was a great hand motion you did.
My drum is literally right here, so it's, you know, yeah, it's nothing else.
But no, for real, just steady heartbeat style drum rhythms with cool sounding drums. Again, if you look up the Heart Sutra, right, which I haven't heard in years, I forgot about it, and I looked it up because I just watched this horrible movie. Oh my goodness, the Little Buddha freaking had Chris Isaac as the father, and it had this cast of children in it. Each one of them was more annoying than the first one, and they were all Anakin Skywalker bad. They were all that bad. They were all awful. They were all miserable. Oh my freaking goodness. The worst. I mean, you're watching the movie, and get this, you've got Keanu Reeves playing Siddhartha Gautama. You know, you have him playing Buddha, basically. And you don't even realize it's him sometimes because they did such a good job with makeup, and the way he talks sounds kind of exotic already, especially since this was like at the height of Bill and Ted times for him. I think it was like 80, I think it was like 94 or something. And I forgot about the Heart Sutra. You know, it's one of my favorites actually. And so I look it up to remind myself of it. I'm listening to it. I'm like, oh yeah, that's how I used to love doing When I used to do invocations, I used to often do it that way. There was even a time when I first got back into Magic where I kind of stopped myself from doing that because I wanted to just kind of blah, 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 blah. And I was like, no, I'm going to like sing them. I'm going to say them like they're speeches. I'm going to intone them like other people do where they're like, Spirit, come to me. You know, that's cool. It works. That's fine. Nothing wrong with it. But I wanted to do the way I liked. And when I did that with this Lucifer one, like instant, like I went full invocation. I'm not saying I knew his thoughts. I'm saying just the flow happened. The flow came back and all those adversarial, rebellious thoughts came back. Bangarang, good shit. So I'm going to shut up again. Flesh Priest, speak to me. Talk to me, Goose.
So I did have one thing I want to touch on with you about
Besides
the
my
writing,
pee-pee.
but we did actually have a question from Wyatt Coverdale earlier.
Okay, cool. Wyatt's a
Says,
cool
"Hey,
kid. We like
Thorne.
Wyatt.
Hey Thorne, what is your opinion on keeping sorcery secret? Random
Okay.
question, but out of curiosity." And I think we did discuss this at one point with a live stream with somebody. I think it was
Probably.
keeping it occulted. Is the
Maybe
title
keeping
we
it sacred.
used?
Probably keeping it sacred. Probably. I think it was that one. At least that's the only one that sounds like. I think it was keeping it sacred.
That sounds right.
Yeah, I think it was keeping it sacred. So, okay. So keeping things hidden. Okay. There's no rule that says you have to keep things occulted or secret. But it's also a rule that you should keep some things occulted and secret. Whether you mean it to be a rule or not, you're going to have things you just don't want to share with anybody. So you're already, step one, you're already keeping something secret. Now, my philosophy is keeping something secret helps keep it sacred. If you're not talking about it, it kind of makes it more mysterious and it's your own little secret and it's your own little thing. So there is power in keeping things occulted. There's no question about it. But the idea that it must be occulted or must be secretive is more or less kind of an anachronistic mentality born perhaps out of the once upon period of time where they would burn people like us. And those times are gone, so half of the reason to keep it secret is mostly gone. Obviously, if you're living in like a household where maybe you got hardcore atheists, maybe you got rational skeptics, maybe you got a Christian family or something, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, don't hate on them for this, by the way. I always remind people, you know, they're the ones with the problem, right? They're the ones with the problem for having a closed mind. Don't exacerbate it by hating them too. And I'm not trying to be like, oh, we have to be forgiving. I just mean don't hate them for that simple thing. Hate them because of the way they treat you. Hate them for other reasons. Don't hate them just because they're Christians. I can't stand those people who think that just because you're satanic or Luciferian or into demons, that you must be an enemy of Christian religion. I'm not an enemy of anything. I dislike religion. I treat religion as something to be wiped off my shoe. I dislike it completely. And if I'm confronted by a religious person, I enjoy either breaking them or walking away smiling. Okay? But I'm not here to challenge Christianity to a duel and see who's got a bigger black penis of magic, right? That's not what I'm here to do. I'm here to quite literally just share what I see. And that's it. So if you can't do that because you're living in an oppressive household, that's different. I know you're a young kid, and I know that you've mentioned something along the lines that they think you're a little nutty for what you're doing, Wyatt. So, you know, that's all well and good. You're basically no more new. Like you're not a new model, right? You're like you know, oppressed teenager number, you know, 765,295,000. You know, that's you. Okay, you've
You're
got a
in the
long
movies.
serial. You got a long serial number. Yeah, there's movies about you, dude. So all I'm saying is in your quest for independence, you've got to earn it to a point. You know, you've got to recognize that you're free already, but as a human being, there's a system around you that's there for a reason, and you may not always agree with it. I know I don't, but it doesn't mean that just because I disagree that I go running down the street with a brick and a gun, right? I try to find my niche and live it. That's part of the occulted rule. You'll find that, you know, all of these witches in the past that were burned for what they believed in, and all these other religions, you know, all these people that were persecuted for their belief, sometimes they had success when they would fight back, and sometimes it just made it worse. And a lot of people have a misunderstanding about the way Christians treated magic in the before 4 time, we'll say. Magic by itself wasn't what you got burned at the stake for. A lot of people will say that, but that's not what they did it for most of the time. I'm not saying there wasn't examples of it. What I'm saying is most of the time, the predominant thing that got you in trouble wasn't that you were doing magic, because there was what they considered white or Christian magic. They did believe in that. There were midwives that were doing all this
They were
stuff.
never going after their healers, and their healers were using magic because they needed them.
Absolutely. Except that their idea of magic usually stemmed from some Christian orthodoxy, Abrahamist orthodoxy. They would sometimes make exceptions for Jewish things and things of different Christian faiths and dogmas. Because remember, Christianity isn't a monolith either. Up until, I don't know how recently exactly, but up until fairly recently and still currently, there's how many dozens or hundreds even of popular denominations of Christianity. We're not even talking about the little mom and pop cults that run around doing their thing and they think they're a pastor. I'm talking about just the ones that are recognized. There's a lot of them. Okay, and so throughout history, there hasn't been one Christianity. There's been Christianity, the umbrella, just like there's been non-dualism, the umbrella, and a lot of different expressions of that. And not all of them were adversarial or hateful towards magic. Some of them, they go to a Universalist Unitarian church and tell them you practice magic. They'd be like, oh, that's cool. You want to do it? You want to show us? They're not going to hate you for that, probably. At least not the ones I knew. So there's nothing about Christianity that says that it has to be adversarial to anything that's not Christian. In fact, most of the older Christian, this is coming from someone who wasn't an angry Christian growing up. Like, I didn't hate being Christian. I still don't hate that I was Christian. I was never mistreated as a Christian. So I don't have a hate for Christians. I don't have a hate for Yahweh or Jesus, or I don't feel the need to say Yahweh is weak or strong or Jesus is weak. I don't feel that. That's a very divided, dualistic, weak mentality where you have to say my sky daddy is bigger than yours. That's not how this works, because if you understand what I was saying earlier about Nyarlathotep and about the spirits and their origins and what they really are, you'll understand that it doesn't quite work that way. There is no heaven where a God lives. There's no dimension where they are physical like you are. There's no dimension where they exist in any definition of real that would satisfy. They are real because they influence the world. That's what makes them real. And they are real for that reason and probably no other. They're just as real as you are for that reason.
Illustrious Pharaoh says, as Peter Carroll put it, it doesn't matter what god or gods you believe in, religious context is irrelevant to a serious student of the occult.
Yes, it's totally irrelevant. Totally fucking irrelevant. Now, I will say most magic is born out of Sky Daddy worship, okay, in some form, okay? And Eddie, thank him so much for being here. For that thing he was talking about when we brought up Pi and how Zeus is basically Sky Father, right? That's why we say Sky Daddy. So we're actually kind of talking about Zeus at that moment when we say Sky Daddy, by the way, which also means Baal Hadad, by the way. So as we're talking about Sky Daddy, okay, that's what we're talking about, is this idea that there is a greater thing that is like this and that. But we're really talking about an idea. And people will say, well, ideas aren't real. They're not firm. They're not. This incense stick is real. Wiggling around in my hand like a sword. But when I think about an incense stick, it's not real. No, you are wrong. You are wrong. Because all that you know of this incense stick is your idea of it. Now, I did have an argument on Discord the last couple days with this obnoxious asshole. We'll just put it that way. Who we let him go as long as we could. Then finally everybody just had enough of him. And I finally kicked him out and it felt great. But everybody jumped on it. And I feel bad too, because I feel like this guy, I feel like there could have been a good conversation there if he wasn't trying so hard to prove something. If it was literally just, hey, let's compare non-dualism, panpsychism, hermetics. We could have a fantastic conversation and just talk about which one we think and why we like them. And it's a sharing contest, right? Why don't we make more debates a sharing contest and less about trying to prove something to someone, right? In fact, that should be a whole lecture in its own, right? So he came in trying to prove something to everybody, where I was just happy to have a conversation and try to pick his brain and figure out what his malfunction was, why he was trying to prove everything to everybody. And we ended up with this issue of, is non-dualism idealism or not? No, it's not. It's objectively not idealism. Non-dualism says there is a something. But the idea of something is an idea. And it is not that. Ideas aren't real. Okay, ideas are what we wrap around what is. Ideas, there is a thing, but the word thing ruins it. As soon as I say there is a thing, I've already said that's not what it is. Okay. So we were having this weird argument, and every time I'd make a point, he'd try to flip it and this and that. We're not trying to, I told him, I'm not trying to argue with you. I'm not here to have a debate with you. I'm not here to prove anything to you. We're having a sharing contest. In fact, Flesh, let's change one of the rules on the bot when people get invited in. Discussions are okay, debates are okay, but we are having a sharing contest, not a proof contest, not a intellectual EP contest. It's a sharing contest. I like sharing. Is that a good word, guys? Am I being lame? Is this too much like Saturday morning cartoon stuff, like a sharing? Let's have a sharing contest, everybody.
I mean, just a touch, but I like it. It's the right amount of touch.
It's the right amount of
don't
gentle,
isolate that.
It was. Well, what did I say before about the black magic penis? I think I said it out of order, so that must have sounded bad. I caught myself like, what did you just say, you freaking idiot? Yeah. So yeah, go ahead.
I had another question. I don't know if you wanted to go more with this train of thought, but I had something that linked to things that we were talking about earlier.
Okay.
Coda Dagestan asked question on the topic of occulted knowledge. What is the potency of hidden divine beings like Amon-Ra compared to the more commercialized counterparts?
Well, that's kind of tough to say. It depends on what you're talking about. If you're coming at it from a theistic perspective of these beings are real and they live in these dimensions and places like heavens and hells and all this kind of stuff. If you're from that perspective, you're going to have a completely different interpretation than I'm about to give you. But if I'm understanding the question correctly, because remember, I'm not hyper-educated, okay? You know, one of my sins in the minds of some people is I'm a high school educated, almost a dropout type of guy. Okay, so everything I'm telling you is seat of the pants. I researched it just yesterday. I'm learning it, and this is just my intelligence working. It's not like I have a whole. I'm not a bookworm. I don't. So if I'm misunderstanding the question, I apologize. But if there is a secretive side to a spirit, okay, what is the value in that? Well, very often, for one thing, religions and esoteric practices and mystical cultures, all of it, anything that is socialized. There's an inner order and an outer order, and then there's the public face, right? As someone said to me, I forget if it was Johan or JB or some other person that I sometimes talk to, they said that in all of these religions, there is the religion of the masses and then the religion of the ones who truly know, right? There is like what's hidden in the library in Rome, that whatever that is, the hidden library, where they call it, the one in Rome where they have all the books that are secret. Versus what they tell you in the church, right?
The Vatican Archives?
Yeah, the Vatican Archives, thank you. So you got the Vatican Archive version of the truth, and then you've got the truth that they tell. So by these spirits, by these spirits, we're talking about these spirits. We have a public face spirit, and then we have the spirit that maybe the masters know. And maybe they have a separate version for everything from they literally believe that it's a different being in a different space and time coordinate, right? Because they believe the gods are real in their idea of what real is. Or maybe they know that they can influence the entire world by giving them this archetype or this story, but they themselves know the parent archetype or story, and then they adjust and manipulate the world with that. Kind of like in Christianity, if you do the research, it's pretty glaringly obvious that Yahweh was once coterminous with Canaanite culture. In other words, it was another god the Canaanites believed in. At some point, the cult split off and became its own religion. And to do that, they had to shit on all the old Canaanite gods. So somebody knew the truth somewhere. And it just metastasized and morphed over generations to become a new truth. Well, that had to happen somehow. So you had to have a hidden truth and you had to have a true truth. And the hidden truth and the true truth and the truth you shared are all different things. So you can have a hidden God that is maybe closer to the original intention. And you have the public one. Now, I don't know. I really don't know if that answers your question or even relates to it. It may not even touch on it because you're probably talking about something different. But when you say the words you said, that's where my brain went. So I hope it's useful somehow. Maybe it's not answering your question. Maybe it's just giving you worse questions. I don't know. So.
And I actually wanted to touch on something. We talked a little bit before the stream started about you starting to write again. And I made the comments about how with writing, I've always been told, creativity in general, but especially with writing, 90% of the work is literally just showing up and doing it.
For
and,
sure.
you know, I have my opinion. I wanted to ask you, do you think that same sentiment applies to spiritual practices as well? I would say
no,
it does,
actually.
but
yeah, hold on.
I
Yeah, keep going. I'll let you finish. Go ahead.
Oh no, it's pretty much just that. I would say yes. Admittedly, it's not a one-to-one comparison, but simply just doing the work and keeping it regular is going to get you so much more progress and growth than just
yes and no. All right, let me take a dunk on it then. So in Become the Maelstrom, I'm very vocal about you should do something magical every day, right? I believe that. You know, even if it's just I check my tarot cards or I researched a spirit or I meditated. Something magical every day. That also means look for it in your life. That means when you're walking down the street and a crow caws and you're like, ooh, and you pick up on it and you turn your head. That wasn't an accident. There was some reason for it. Maybe it's not something big like in Hollywood, you know, you're going to get run over by a car or something. Maybe it's just in that moment you needed to be reminded of your awareness or something. Okay, so that's a big deal. But the idea that you can practice, now I know we call it a practice and it's fair, but the idea that practicing magic necessarily makes it better, I don't entirely agree with, because if you're practicing it wrong, you're just actually reinforcing your superstitious beliefs, or you're reinforcing the maya, the delusion of what you're doing. And there's a conversation in the comments that I want to touch on too for a moment, just for a second, but I'll do that after. So you could be reinforcing your mistakes, kind of like, I believe in what's called passive learning. That is to say, you have a problem or a question, you can't solve it. As long as you're doing, I'm not saying be lazy about it. I'm saying you hit a brick wall, you can't solve it. You got to put it down, sleep on it, do something like that. And in your subconscious, we'll keep working on it for you. And you're going to come back to it later and you're going to have an answer. So in much the same way, the issue is not that you shouldn't have regular practice. That's not, I know it's what it sounds like. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is the practice doesn't make the perfect. The practice is how you confirm what you know. The practice is how you put it into practice. So a lot of people think of magic as a machine or a mechanism or something like that, and it's not. If you're not getting the results you want from magic, it's probably not because your ritual is wrong. Right? Let me say that again for everybody in the back row. If you don't get what you want out of a magic ritual, that doesn't mean that the ritual was wrong. That's the Hogwarts brand of magic. It's not true. That's the brand of magic they want you to believe because they don't want you to know how much power you actually have. They want you to think that magic is some kind of scientific thing that we just haven't figured out yet, or it's some system of rules. You've got to practice to confirm your experiences, but you don't have to. It's a paradox is what I'm getting at. And I know that's not a fair answer. People want a straight answer. I can't give you one here. When I tell you should do something magical every day, that doesn't necessarily... So like, I think E.A. Quetting says, like, I do ritual every day, and that's good for him. For me, that's horrible. If I do ritual every day, I burn out. I get bored of it. I think it sucks. I feel like I'm going through motions, or I'm in a religious system. If I feel like I've got to do a candle and incense every day because it's part of a thing that I have to do, I'm not going to do it. But if you ask my wife, I light incense mostly every day. And I don't always do it as an offering because I'm not religious. I'm not worshiping. And I'm not practicing something. So when I tell you that your magic is failing, it's not because you're not practiced enough. It's not because you haven't figured out what candle goes with what intention. That's not how this works. We need that meme so we can just keep bringing it up whenever I say that. You just have like the two old ladies just like pop up. That's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. Magic works on something fundamental. It's a metaphysical, mystical idea. That's how it works. It doesn't work because you lined everything up just right. It doesn't work because your quartz is a battery and you're charging some machine. That's not what makes it work. In fact, that's the gobbledygook that makes it probably not work more. What's making it work is the intention behind you even doing all that. That's what's making it work. When you have an intention first. The last class I did in my weekly class, which is every Monday. Okay, and if you're interested, that's in Patreon. A little small buy or crap segment. When I do those classes, the last one I did was about non-dualism, and we got really into, for a minute, the idea of intention, where it comes from, and how to follow it back. To understand that the outcome of magic spells is not contingent on the ritual. It's caused by, if there is a cause, and there isn't, but if we're going to pretend there's a cause, it's actually caused by the intention behind all of that started the chain of events. So in other words, the reason your spell worked was because your intention was in alignment with your actions and with the world that you're in. That's why it worked. So you, as an inferior mind, because that's what we are, when I say inferior, I don't mean like you're bad, I mean inferior compared to a superior mind. Because we are an inferior mind, because we are a limited mind, we think that what we need to fix is the bibbidi-bobbidi-boo. That's not what we need to fix. You need to fix your intention. You can't fix your intention, though. You have no control over your intention at all whatsoever. So what do? Well, in Eastern cultures, they call it yoga. It's a form of union and alignment and becoming one with the thing. You need to become one with your intention. And people are going to say, that's not very left-hand path. That sounds like something. The problem is you think your intention's outside of you. That's foolish. That's where you're broken in your logic. What are you apart from? That's absurd. Again, I'm speaking as someone who's had that subjective objective collapse of experience. To me, I've had that moment where it felt like everything was one thing. I've been there. And I still, to this day, I look around and I go, yes, I have to intellectually remind myself occasionally, but I generally operate on the principle that that's me over there. It's just a different part of me, like my foot is a part of me. And then I can go higher sometimes and really just trance out and get that. So that's also part of the deeper magic, is understanding that when you're trying to change reality, what you're doing is changing yourself. Instead of commanding and yelling and beating it or begging it, have faith it's going to move. Right? Obviously, if there's nothing wrong with you, like there's nothing wrong with your neurology, you haven't had a stroke, you haven't had your arm cut off, do you have to yell at your hand to make it do anything? No. Do you have to beg it to do anything? No, it just acts. And you're going to think you're making it act, but I'm telling you, you're not. Its actions are already determined long before you decide on your left brain what to do with it. It just starts to happen. There's actually scientific tests that'll show that. I'm going off in the weeds here, but what I'm trying to get at is that this idea that you are in some kind of competition with the universe to bend it to your will, that's probably the first thing you need to take care of if you want your magic to work. And if you want your magic to really work, you have to understand your magic never fails. It never fails. None of your rituals have ever failed to give you exactly what you ever intended them to do. It's just that your idea of intention is something we say egoistic. And that's the flaw. Not that ego is a flaw. That's the other stupid thing people do. People will hear that and they'll say, oh, I've got to get rid of my ego really quick. How do I get rid of my ego, Thorne? How do I do that? Tell me how to get rid of my ego. Oh, well, you take about this many milligrams of this. No. Getting rid of your ego is the most egotistical fucking thing you could ever try to do. Trying to subjugate your ego is egotistical. That's all ego games. You need to embrace your ego. You need to worship your ego a little bit for a minute so you can see the absurdity of the action. And you recognize that it's not real. It's another story you're telling. Your ego is just a story that tells itself. It gets carried away with itself. It's like a feedback loop, and it just keeps going. It doesn't stop. The job is not to get rid of it. Your job is to not even learn to live with it like you're coping with it. Your job is to recognize that your ego is like your hand. It's another way for you to interact with your environment. You are meant to enjoy the shit out of your ego, to love your ego, to see your ego as a beautiful character in a great story, and really just enjoy that motherfucker. Whatever form that takes for you, Fleshy.
You're being
really
very
just
generous with the length of those. Never mind.
Really, really enjoy that motherfucker. Really. And that's self-love, isn't it? And self-love equals universal love if you are in the non-dualist spectrum, because you recognize everything is you, right? So.
I'm always looping back around. I hate cutting you off when you're in the middle of something
No, I'm
like
good.
that.
I'm good. I was thinking about responding to another comment that I just saw, but keep going.
Well, this one's quick. You made the comment about the ego thing of like, oh, you want to kill your ego? Take 100 milligrams of this and all the gobbledygook. Do you feel like the gobbledygook, all of that was just? I feel like somebody approached somebody who was very learned at some point. Just, can you teach me how to do magic? How do I do this? Just fuck off. Go take Eye of Newts and yeah, just hiding the mystery, like the true secret and all the gobbledygook. Like, you'll figure this out eventually. Stop bothering me.
Sure, absolutely, to a point. Yeah, I mean, to a point. Guys, you want to know what the secret is? 90% of the occult grimoires that you're reading are bullshit, from top to bottom. Especially the old ones. If you're reading the Keys of Solomon, that's the Necronomicon from the 15th and 14th century, guys. That's what that is. That doesn't mean it's, but here's the rub. When I say that, the double joke is, contained within all of that bullshit and fakery is working wisdom, is working truth, is something there. If you know how to read it, and I would do this, but it would probably drive me up a wall to do so, because it would be tedious as hell and nobody would watch it. I could go through these things and thumb through them and be like, okay, that's what they're really telling you here. They're telling you here to identify with the disobjectification of the universe. You have to recognize that you are the tetragrammaton. That's why that's there. Okay, that spirit represents a part of your ego, excuse me, not your ego, or maybe your ego in some cases, represents a piece of your ego. That represents the collective conscious. That represents the collective unconscious. What does that all mean? These are all figments of a thing to experience. And the ritual is in the language of mysticism from its time. It's in the language of the mysterious from its time. And so people, their subconscious was wide open. Your subconscious is always open to the mysterious. Wide open, like flies right in. So this is why we like to do things with spell books and candles and rituals, because it's mysterious and weird. And our analytical mind gets this thing, this can't be real. And it just kind of like, all right, I'm out. You know what? I'm going to hit the old dusty trail, and your subconscious takes over. So you give your conscious mind, when I say conscious mind, I mean something different when I say consciousness in the non-dual sense, because there is a difference of definition and consciousness between the two. Your modern idea of the conscious mind just kind of like says, okay, do whatever you want. I'm gonna just, so your conscious mind is busy trying to make the candle do the right thing and get the incense and to read and speak the words. Your subconscious mind, that's the part that doesn't have a problem with believing any of this. It knows all of this. It's okay with it because it's the interface between your true nature and your ego experience. That's what your subconscious is. You could say it's a function of the brain. That's fine. You wouldn't be entirely wrong. But that's the intermediary, right? That's anybody knows about transmissions, right? That's the hydrostatic transmission thing that's happening. You have the engine running away, and then you have your gearbox and all that shit, and you have a hydrostatic transmission, which means a whole bunch of oil and a press plate and all this stuff is happening, but they're never actually totally connected in the sense where, if the one moves, the other one moves perfectly in unison with it. There's always a little slippage going on. There's a little lubrication going on. And they eventually lock up and keep pace with each other, but they're not exactly connected. That's why you can slam the gas in a car, but go nowhere, and the wheels lock up, and still the engine, and this is why it keeps going, because you're burning your transmission out when you do that. Anyway, your subconscious is like the transmission between this higher awareness of what you are and the embodied awareness of what you are. And then there's something behind that. The thing that's behind that is the consciousness that I speak of. Pale Horse and I forget who were talking about it for a minute. They said, what is, where does this experience of consciousness take place? And that's the rub. You have to get to the point where you recognize that there is a state of knowing. That is what you are. Then there is a knower and a known. The state of knowing is the part of you in which all of this is happening. And you can't put your finger on it because the minute you identify it, you're actually identifying a past memory of it. You're not actually, you're identifying a known quantity. The knowing is like the word gnosis, the true meaning of the word gnosis, which is not, oh, I suddenly know something and I have a knowledge of something. That's fair. That's not a bad way to use it because that's still part of what the word means. But the original, in my opinion, what the Gnostics were talking about, right? The thing the Gnostics got right was this idea of the state of knowing. Gnosticism, gnosis. When you reach a state of gnosis, the chaos mages will call it the flow state, but by doing so, they're not being accurate. The flow state is what your brain's doing. The flow state is something you can, with the right electrodes on your head, I can put you in a flow state. Well, maybe I can't. Somebody probably could. They know how. I get into the flow state when I'm writing and talking, but that's not it either. Gnosis is actually behind even that. Gnosis is the full knowing experience. It's not what you see. It's not what you hear. It's not what you taste, smell, or touch. It's not the internal picture of all of that. It's the thing that is experiencing all of that. It's a level, it's like, I've said the analogy before of a person watching a movie. Well, what's watching that movie, right? And there was an old picture where the scientist was trying to figure it out, and they had a picture of a guy watching a movie, and inside his head was another person watching a movie. Who's this observer? Is there a little movie screen somewhere in your head where the movie's playing? How come you see a movie in there? Why don't you see electrons wiggling around? Why do you see what you see at all? Why is it doing that? Woof, what the fuck's happening? Well, by the time you have that experience, it's already not real anymore. You're already that's why there's a lag between what you think is real and what really is real. That's why there's a lag in your reaction and your awareness of it. So the knowing, the state of knowing is way behind all of that. And so when you have a moment of identity or a moment of experience, that's happening within that state of knowing. Your Western conscious mind, what the Western modern definition of conscious mind is contained within the experience of the state of knowing. This is why the state of knowing, also called consciousness in many forms of non-dualism, that is why consciousness is thought to be the source, the one true source, the only truth, the prime source, the original one, is the state of knowing, the state of being. That's why they say it's a state of being, it's a state of knowing, it's a state because the words fail. There's no word that really wraps up what that means when you're saying it. All you can do is just kind of say these words that lead you to look at that experience you're having and say, no, not the experience, but the thing that's experiencing the experience. And this is why people have asked me, like, oh, Thorne, you're all high and mighty about, oh, you're God. What is that like? Okay, you want to know? Stop thinking, shut up, and just breathe. And now step back a little bit. Go in that moment. Go deeper. No, behind the experiences even. Before it becomes a word that you understand. When you hear somebody talking and you understand their words, nope, you're not doing it. That's not it. Because you're already, at that moment, you're dealing with the processed data. You're dealing with the processed version. Go further back. I'm not saying don't be aware of the words. I'm saying before that even is where this takes place. And you witness this as a memory. You witness this as a, that's why I say there is the knowing, the state of knowing. There is the known, and then there's the knower. The state of knowing is the source. The act of knowing. The known is a thing that is known by the knowing. And the knower is one of the things that you know. So this identity is the knower, and that's an identity. If you say I, or if you mean me, or if you mean some internal thing, like this experiencer, if I say the experiencer, that's a knower. I've already pushed it far away from what it is. The closest you can get linguistically that I'm aware of, maybe somebody has a better one, is the state of knowing. Figure out what that means. Is that important? Of course it's important. Is it necessary? No, you're doing it anyway. You don't have to know about it to do it. Just like you don't have to know about it to breathe or for your blood to pump. You have nothing to do with it. You have no control over it. But that's actually what you are. And that's what everything is. Everything is a state of knowing. Not awareness. Awareness implies reaction. A state of knowing. Awareness is actually lower than the state of knowing. And the state of knowing has no it's a Mobius strip. It's one thing. So the state of knowing itself, by limiting itself to smaller perspectives, is how you get the emergence of phenomenon and experience. So this sounds great, guys. A lot of people are sitting there going, yes, that's very deep, Thorne. That's really great. This is amazing. How does that turn into magic? Anyone want to guess? I'll let anybody guess. Go ahead and guess. I know some people just like find me hypnotic when I talk.
Everything is magic.
Okay, fair, but let's go more ontologically speaking. How does magic work then? What is going on?
I got to tap out on this one. To be honest, I was lost in the chat.
I knew it. I knew I'd catch you. No, I was saying with everything that I said, taking everything I said into context, then how does magic work? Does candles do anything? Does the sigil do anything? No, of course not.
It doesn't do anything by itself.
No, even that. Nope, wrong. Nothing does anything. Nothing does anything.
Where I'm coming out with that is that it can help you. It can help fool yourself into, oh, this is being useful for me, but it's not actually necessary.
That's exactly what the ego identity would say, because it still thinks it's the thing doing it. It's still lost in its world of self-identity and belief. And it sounds so high and mighty for me to say. When you get that picture, that perspective, when your objective-subjective duality collapses, when you have a moment, when you take a moment, when you hit those milligrams, as some people will know what I'm saying, and you have that ego disillusionment, you don't have to do it that way, by the way. That wasn't my point, is to do it that way, but that's one of the easy ways. When you're doing that, and you have that moment of ego dissolution, you go, wait a minute, it's all happening anyway. You have a moment where the ego kind of is still there, but you're not attached to it anymore. You're not the ego. The ego is the thing you watch, and you see that firmly and vividly. The ego is the thing I'm watching. I'm not the ego. And you go back further and go, well, what is that I that was watching the ego? Wait, no, the moment I say I, I'm kind of doing ego again. So the sigils and the candles and all the goobly gap, those are things that are just happening. Those are things that are already there long before you ever dreamed of doing them. Because your ego is just it's a nothing. This is why I keep talking about the block time universe theory that I have, in which consciousness, especially the identified mind version is what I'm talking about, is an area of focus that the knowing uses to see itself. And as it moves through this block time universe, it experiences. And we rationalize those experiences because of the direction and way that those experiences unfold, but they unfold because of the path that your identified mind is moving. There's an old parable, it's one of my favorites, it's the old koan from about the sixth patriarch of Zen. There were two monks arguing about a flag, and the first said the flag is moving. The second said, no, it's the wind that's moving. And the patriarch walked up and said, no, you're both wrong. It's mind that moves. If you understand the resonant depth of that koan, you realize that the flag is motionless. The flag does nothing. There is no flag even. There is no spoon, as they say. But you can take that there is no spoon game 75 layers deeper than that movie made it look. When you understand the real depth of what that meant, you recognize the spoon exists in no dimension is it real. There is no real spoon outside of the matrix. There is no spoon, period. Spoon is an idea, which is why a lot of people say non-dualism sounds like idealism. It's not. It's objectively not. In fact, it tells you that the ideas are the illusion. But what it's telling you is your experience of reality is idealism. You are mistaking the idealism of experience for reality, and it's not that. So what I'm telling you is, what is Magick doing? Magick is doing nothing. Magick's just another form of the delusion, and we play with it like a game. I enjoy it. That's why I make videos about it. But it is just a game, and there is no rules to it. There's no rules to it whatsoever. It's already a thing that you've done. The moment you sit there and start lighting candles and all that, that's already happened. You're just moving your awareness to that moment. I mean, we all know about Flesh. You know about multiverses, right? You've heard of that idea before, right?
Yeah,
And
I'm passingly familiar.
Right, and you've had the idea. You've heard of excuse me, I'm trying to think of the word. The idea that so you've heard of the wave particle duality issue where you have the Schrodinger's cat situation. You've heard of Schrodinger's cat, right?
Yeah.
And you know how that basically implies that reality splits every time a decision is made, basically in an event. Anytime that something can go one of two ways, it creates another universe. Well, You've heard that. Okay, so what if it doesn't create anything? What if both universes are always there?
And you're just shifting between them.
You're shifting timelines. Well, what if time is just another illusion, which it is? It's a dimension, it's a direction, but it is not movement by itself. We think of time as an energy field that we're moving with, that's like a flow of a sea. Well, it's not it at all. If you understand what time and space do, they're interchangeable in a way. I can give you proof right now. The photon, it does not experience time. It is a 3-part, it's not a 4-part entity. It has 0 time coordinates. It does not move in time. It experiences 0 time, which means it can move at the fastest possible speed in space. Conversely, an object which is not moving in space experiences time at the most rapid possible speed, which is also fundamentally 0, by the way. Infinities and zeros are pretty much, in this context, are kind of the same thing. Kind of, not exactly. So when you have an object like something falling out, you can thank PBS Space-Time for this too, by the way. It kind of helped me put it in perspective. When you have an object falling out of the sky and gravity's pulling on it, it's exchanging time, literally exchanging time for the movement that it's experiencing. Yes, keep away. The Schrodinger's cat thing is the box that's there and dead at the same time, right? It's alive and dead at the same time. So for those who don't know, Schrodinger's cat is this idea that you could put a cat in a box and hook it up to this, this system whereby the experimenters will not know what's happened inside the box. But inside the box, there is a kind of poison caplet that will be destroyed if an atom deteriorates or splits. In other words, so there's atoms that you can't predict when they're going to do it. They have a half-life of X number of minutes, hours, seconds, but you know it could happen at any time. So you put the cat in the box, and at any given moment, the atom could have split, causing the poison to go off and kill the cat. But there's no way to know, because it's completely random. There's no way to know until you open the box. And the idea is that the cat is then in an entangled state. It's both alive and dead at the exact same time. Which is it? There's no way to know till you open the box. So does that mean So does that mean if you open the box that suddenly 2 universes happen where one, the cat's alive and one's dead? And then how do you end up in the one? Or does it mean that there's only one reality and it's predetermined? Or does it mean, what does it mean? Well, the problem with the predetermined issue is if it's predetermined, we should be able to simplify things down enough that we can predict it, and we can't. So they're leaning towards something else. They may say that things are, this is why science doesn't know for sure. This is why they're still talking about it. They don't know. But in the block time system, the idea of the cat being alive or dead is irrelevant because it's always alive and dead. Because time is part of the illusion too. Light doesn't experience time. To a photon of light, yesterday and today are the same thing. There's no difference. They're exactly in a zero spatial dimension, because time is a dimension that is not the same as space to us, but functionally is basically the same. It's just another direction that you can move in. So a photon doesn't move in those directions. So maybe this is like way too high, or maybe it's way too low for some people, but all I'm telling you is light doesn't experience time. That means that from its origin point to its ending point, it experiences nothing. It is instantaneous. To us, it takes a certain amount of time to do it, because we have traded off, because we are not stationary in time. So what's moving then? What the fuck is moving? So when you have an object moving through space, you say this is moving. Well, in order for this to move through space, it also has to move through time. Or does it? What's moving through time? Now, some people may not realize this, but time is relative to the observer. Flesh Priest and I see time completely different intervals. Completely different. We agree upon something because we both have an experience at what we call the same time, but the moment that Flesh Priest is experiencing right now is measurably different than mine. Your now moment is not the same as my now moment. They're never the same. So what does that mean? Every point of observation, I don't know if anybody sees where I'm going with this, every point of observation is its own unique timeline in a way. So this is why you could argue, I mean, maybe it's just a meme or maybe it's real. I think it's real, actually. The whole Berenstain Bears mandala effect. I wonder who was waiting for me to go there. Okay, so with that context, adding that like a cherry on top to everything I've been telling you about non-dualism, what is magic then? Magic is, well, what did I tell you about alignment? You have to be in alignment with who and what you are. Not trying to bend and twist and shape and deform things. You have to say, I am this. So what does magic end up becoming? It becomes a thing that you experience. It is not a thing you do. It is not a system of cause and effect. It is not anything to do with energy moving around. You are what's moving around, guys. You. And by you, I don't mean your identity ego, although that is part of it. I mean your sense of knowing is moving around. You're limited. When you make your sense of knowing finite, then it has something to move within, because it can only move within itself. So it limits itself from everything to D.H. Thorne, or an atom, or a subatomic particle. It limits itself to that awareness, and it experiences that. And that allows it to have this experience of time and space, which also gives you the experience of events that could be caused by magic or anything like it. So I hope I'm making sense, but I want to leave off here with, so the candles and the incense, if I tell you you need to use those, that's just like what you said earlier. What did you say earlier about the guy who knows, and he tells the guy, here, go collect some roses and put them on the ritual altar. He knows how it really works, but he tells the kid the dumb thing. So when I'm telling all of you guys to go get your candles and we're going to feel the energy, I'm not being mean, but I'm basically treating you like a child. I'm telling you a useful story, because I'm hoping somewhere at the end of the rainbow, maybe a few lifetimes worth of rainbows, but at the end of the rainbow somewhere, the me that I know you are goes, wait a minute, hold on, wait a minute, wait, no, because you just said, and you're going to figure it out, and you're going to go, so none of this matters. Well, that's not a fair statement either. Because if it didn't matter, you wouldn't be experiencing it. The final ingredient, the final little to this puzzle is there's nothing wrong with what you're experiencing. Everything you're experiencing right now is meant to be what you're experiencing. You're doing this because this is what you want to do. The good and the bad. So if you're doing magic, it's because you want to have the experience of, wow, magic was real for a minute. That was really cool. That's it. Done. There's no more meaning needed. There's no more magical mystery that has to be solved. Magic manifests because that's what you wanted it to do. And when I say you and want, I don't mean ego, because it's hard to say this because it's hard for me to just go boop and put it in your head. I have to use language. I have to say you. What I really mean is your knowing, your state of knowing is observing an entity that it has centered itself on, and that entity has desires and intentions and hopes and dreams, and it just follows that natural pattern. It knows flame has been given the properties of devouring things. That's not real, by the way. Flames don't do that. Flame is, imagine just a snapshot of that candle. Is the flame eating the candle if you freeze time? To a photon, does that candle burn down? I just told you photons don't experience time. So to a photon, bang, no time, 0. Is that candle burning? No. It's a snapshot of what is. Bang, just reality, poof. And it's moving. Its position is translated in the experience of those who do experience time. It's like you'd actually be just as accurate to say that a photon exists here and there at the same time. Because to the photon's relative position, it does. It's only we see it in 2 places at 2 different times. This is relativity again. You're not ready for it. Magic may be hard too. I don't know. You have to be able to dabble in all of these things. If you really want to go where I'm going, it pays to dabble. Eddie probably knows. I know Eddie's a nerd of like a level 58 caliber. He's very high on the nerd scale. He probably knows a lot of what I'm saying. I see him something about quantum woo and all that, and that's true. Quantum woo is the idea that your consciousness makes reality shape. That's not what happens, guys. So when you're listening to me going, oh, Thorne's talking about how consciousness lets us shape reality. No. No. Wrong. That's not what I'm saying. It's actually the opposite. Reality is bang. It's everything that can be, ever was, ever will be, and is right now. All of it at once. Your consciousness is what causes it to appear to have causation. Your consciousness is what moves through all of that Rorschach inkblot of potential and creates stories out of it because it has an identified mind that it's manifested with its limited awareness. And it's really looking at itself. It's just looking at a piece of itself instead of the whole thing. It's a Mobius strip. It's a Klein bottle. It's a dimension that curves in on itself and becomes itself. It's a black hole. It's a singularity of one and all at the same time. And by the way, for those of you who were watching that argument that was going on in the Discord channel, this is why I couldn't have the argument with this guy, because none of this stuff would compute. So, go ahead, Flesh. You were messaging me saying somebody was waiting for us, and I want to give you a floor moment too, because I'm ranty again.
Oh no, yeah, that was I was just letting you know that we have a couple callers lined up, and
Beautiful.
Also because I was lining up the callers when I got back, I did this motion in the middle of you speaking, and I realized that could come. Yeah, that wasn't for anything you were saying. Somebody made a comment in the chat of like, do a jerk off motion if you're still here.
So, I mean, again, this isn't a religion. And this is why someone said, Thorne, you sound like a spiritual atheist. I am. Quite probably the best definition of what I am. I am an atheist. But that doesn't mean that spirits don't exist. It's just not what a theist thinks they are. Not that. It's nothing firm or objective. Spirits are there's a risk when I say this, if I say they're ideas. The average human being goes, oh, they're just ideas. Thorne's basically just saying spirits don't exist. No, because you think ideas don't exist. That's the problem. Ideas do exist. You've been taught and trained that ideas are meaningless, that they're just phantoms and illusions. I mean, isn't that what we call spirits? Phantoms? Come on, guys. It's right there in front of you. It's right there. It's as obvious as can be. Does that mean that a spirit can't change the world? It abso-fucking-lutely can. And it functions by sometimes changing the story of the spirit is sometimes how it's done. Someone telling you that Lucifer is a fallen angel, that's changing a story right there. You may not realize it because you don't know the origin of the story, but if you do, you realize this whole idea that Lucifer is a fallen angel flies completely in the face of the original translation of the Bible in which Lucifer is stated. You have no fucking clue what you're talking about. I'm being very nerdy, aren't I, Des? I'm doing the actually thing, aren't I?
No, I don't think so. In fact, Wyatt in here says, glad to see somebody else here loves having existential crises over scientific philosophical bullshit. Ah, so many moments of hysterical crying.
No. Oh, Wyatt, it stops being crying and becomes laughing eventually. You'll find out. Sooner or later, it all becomes, like, don't become nihilistic. Nihilism, all nihilism is someone who's an idealist who decided that life doesn't have meaning to them. So they're mad because it doesn't have meaning, not realizing the fact that you're saying it doesn't have meaning and that bothers you means it has meaning. You just gave it meaning. When you say life must have meaning, reality must have meaning, or else it's depressing and you're a nihilist, you just gave it meaning. Go live with that. What the fuck is your problem, stupid people? Anyway, you'll find out. I'm wound up again. Is people putting crack in my fucking incense? Is that what's happening? I'm burning through it like it's fucking firewood.
Those are the special incense.
Lolan Scene says, Camilla's random thanks. Good to know that that's your pet bird whistling. I thought DH was altering my reality or something. If I didn't have an open flame, I'd be like, hey, bring the bird out. I want to show everybody my bird. I love my bird. He's cool.
You should have played that off and said, what bird?
Oh, you'll graduate off of Nietzsche eventually, Wyatt. He's cool, but man, that guy's all in his own head.
Which is exactly what we all are.
Go ahead, what?
Mr. DH, would you like
Yes,
to get our
darling.
first caller in?
I think I would. I feel like I could use a drink, though.
Okay. Do you want to...
You want to bring them in and introduce them, and I will get the first drink of the night?
Oh, yeah. I'm very comfortable bullshitting with this guy.
Is this a person that's always on here and just constantly talking our ears off about things?
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that to most of it, but he definitely has been around.
Wow. Must be a pervert. All right, I can hear you guys, so don't say anything I don't want to hear. I will be right back.
Okay, we're going to say all of the things that you don't want to hear then.
I'm hearing it right now, guys.
And completely forgot. Oh, hey. Right. Mr. Eddie, great and powerful. How are you doing, sir?
Pausing my stream.
Okay, cool.
Good.
Yeah, that's to avoid the madness, of course.
I really wanted to quote the Summoner Geeks just now while I was out in the kitchen. I wanted to be like, "Am I at the bar? Are there any
elf girls there?
Are there any elf girls there? If so, I want to do them." I'm back.
Yeah, so I won by default. So I'm the stick that the listeners get if they don't call in.
Oh shit, dude, that's true. No, I'm
You know
kidding.
what's...
Oh, Eddie, you are slowly working your way up on my like scale, dude. You're fine.
No, fucking Eddie's great.
He is good.
I-
I've learned to
I am
love
the
Eddie.
danger.
What's
He's the
funny
danger.
about that is...
Do you want
as
video,
soon
Eddie?
as-
I'm sorry. Does Eddie want video? Or
Sure.
okay, let me. Okay, go back to talking. I'm shutting up.
As
For
soon
extra
as,
punishment to the viewers.
No. What's funny is as soon as I said, like, yeah, nobody really wants to call in tonight. Do you want to come on still? Like, right after I sent that to you, I got a couple messages from like, I want to be on.
So
I like this. Oh.
let's bring up the Discord experience too for guys. Look up on Flesh Priest's thing if you guys are new. Actually, let's do this. How many of you guys, if this is your first time on one of my streams, how many of you guys, if this is your first time watching one of my streams or you're not yet on the Discord server, we'll say one of either, put a little asterisk and hit enter. I want to see how many of you guys are new, how many of you guys this is your first time, and how many of you guys are not on the Discord. And if you're not, and you're new, and you like what you're seeing, and we're not like annoying you, which is possible, I can be pretty annoying, I'm not easy to live with, where Flesh Priest is now waving his tenderly hand, his noodly hand, there is a link. If you type that in, it's also in the video description, and I think Flesh just put it in the chat. You can click that link, and if you go there now, someone will be with you shortly to make you a member, because we figure you're here, you're probably cool. If you're a dick, though, if you break the rules, we're going to crush you. And Eddie is our only, like, chosen moderator. Like, everybody else, like, because we're friends, or, like, Nina already does. Eddie is, like, a badass who just was there, and Flesh is like, We want Eddie to be a moderator. So don't make fun of Eddie. Only Flesh and I can do that because only Eddie can make fun of me and Flesh. That's not true. We all make fun of each other. Be nice to Eddie while he's on here, right? Right, Flesh? So he's not the booby prize. He is one of the achievements on here, is Eddie. Because Eddie is a very intelligent, well-educated, not also handsome on some directions.
I use these streams to filter out the people that I want on my channel. Eddie's the only one that's made it through so far.
Very true. Yeah, you never put me on your channel, do you? Yeah, I just Yeah, guys, Flesh never put me on his channel. That's kind of dick, isn't it?
And what's that? What's that? Oh, that smells like changing the topic.
Oh, right. I'm just gonna look for the asterisks in the so I see one. I see. Keep talking. I'm looking for the asterisk.
You're about to take a long sip.
So
I'm gonna do the Kermit the Frog.
I seem to recall something coming up on Tuesday.
Oh, what was Tuesday?
Yeah, you and I are going to have a continuation of our discussion about black magic and black metal.
And music.
Not necessarily black metal, but definitely the music.
We'll apply quantum woo to vacuum tubes.
I need to send you a video that might just break your heart of a guy setting up a analog synthesizer and cutting the tip off a tube to see what would happen while it was playing.
So I'm doing the back end stuff now, you guys. Just enjoy I'm going to read the chat. I'll chime in occasionally. I'm going to do
dangerous sometimes.
You know what? Let's on like maybe I don't know what day April Fool's Day is, but maybe like on April Fool's Day, we should like just everybody switch positions. Like I'll be Fleshy somehow, and Flesh will be me, or Eddie will be me, or something like that. And we'll do like a really gag reel episode for at least like 20 minutes or something. We'll try to just stay in character. I don't think I can do it for more than 3 minutes though, dude. I really don't. Do you think I can do it for more than 30 seconds? I don't even think I can do it that long.
We'll see.
I have a feeling we're all going to be like, I feel like we're all going to be insulted by it because somebody's going to be like me and just constantly interrupting everything. And then I'm going to be like, oh, everybody and blah, blah, blah. It's going to be horrible. It's going to be.
It'll just be 30 minutes of me holding up a sign like Wile E. Coyote that says non-dualism rant.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah. That's good.
That's why DH Thorne cosplay.
Jen says don't cross the streams. I will. I rarely make plugs, but I'll do that on my channel. Me and Eddie are going to be talking about music and magic and all kinds of shit. It's for the 3 people who are into audio engineering, that will be your stream.
And Camilla just posted, DH Thorne, April Fool's Day is Thursday. So was that, I think we have to do something now. We have to make it somehow special now, don't we? Maybe we'll make it about maybe let's do a session on trickster spirits. Maybe that's what we'll do. Trickster spirits.
I'm in.
I mean, you want to do the entire stream about me?
I just shot you the look of utter disapproval. No.
We could just play the Subgenius movie, Arise. Because that's the trickster spirit right there. Like the trickster spirit is the archetype of Bob. Bob is not descended from the archetype of the trickster.
Bob.
I'm the only one who apparently understands what the hell I'm talking about.
Yeah, I've never seen that. I know you've said it before.
I don't get that reference.
Well, I guess we're going to have to put it on the movie night list. We'll have to put that on the list.
I don't know, man. It's if you're not prepared for it with the correct chemonosis herbal supplements, it can be a devastating experience.
I don't know if Wyatt just complimented my beard or insulted my beard. I love you, brother. That's a good one. I think. Well, how should I? I'm trying to get a Fu Manchu. Like I don't know. How do you get a Fu Manchu? I'm trying to grow these damn things down so they come down, but I gotta have this. I need the strap, and I need the. I don't know, guys. What do you think, Flesh? Is my beard wrong? I know somebody said that I look like the dude from fucking what was it, Toy Story, like the villain from Toy Story. So I don't know. Maybe I need to rethink my beardage. I don't know. My wife likes it.
Dirty.
They did. It was funny though. I'm not gonna lie. That was a fun, except for the fucking alt-right Nazi fucking line. That was just dumb. But the fucking dissing me as like the Toy Story guy, like whoa. Okay, Wyatt says there's a comment. Thank you. Even if it wasn't, like it's still funny to me because like I'm not. I take myself seriously, but never that seriously. I never take myself as seriously as my enemies do.
So
Jen
Eddie,
says she makes fun of Eddie. She says she's special. Eddie, is Jen special? Is she allowed to make fun of you?
Sure.
so we brought you on, and we've been talking a lot about fools and tricksters and everything. Did you have something you wanted to talk about?
Well, for the record, I want to say that I am a nihilist. I'm just not the
The negative nihilist. You're not the what's the word
beating up
for it?
Lebowski for his money.
Well, there is what is it? Benevolent. What's the word for it? There's what the hell is it? I forget if it's benevolent nihilism. Which one it is? No, you're right. When I say nihilism, I mean as a spectrum. A lot of it's negative, but there's actually optimistic nihilist. Is that the one I'm thinking of? There's versions of nihilism where it's not like everything sucks. There's no objective meaning, so therefore I insert some kind of meaning of my own. Is that what you're saying, or go ahead?
There you go.
Yeah,
I'm an absurdist.
Okay, yeah, and that's actually what I guess in that sense you could describe me similarly in that there is no objective meaning to reality, so therefore there's no place. There's a vacuum. Go fill it with whatever meaning you want, and you already do. The fact that you want to put a meaning in there means that that's already the meaning. The meaning is to give it meaning. That's the meaning. And people don't like that answer, do they? Like everyone goes, well, that's not a meaning. Why not? Why isn't that a meaning? What else do you need? What so, I don't know. I think nihilism, it's a paradoxical word. Because
Yes.
nihilism implies that there should be meaning. And if there should be meaning, that means that's the meaning already. So
And nihilism, like Nietzsche, is very, very misunderstood.
mm-hmm. I haven't read any
Oftentimes
Nietzsche in a
deliberately
long
so
time.
for political purposes.
Mm-hmm.
Hitler.
Is there a Cliff Notes of Nietzsche that you could recommend? Because I don't read as much as I used to, so I can catch back up on it and remember exactly what the fuck I was talking about. That you would recommend, Eddie? I know you're probably more likely to just be like read all of Nietzsche.
Oh, I will recommend though. Do not attempt to listen to Nietzsche in audiobook form. That's not no. Especially when you're driving.
Just want to run your car off the road?
Well, yes, but it's just there's too much going on there to really be able to concentrate on anything else other than what's being said. But Nietzsche was basically the first existentialist. So his basic idea was, God is dead, we killed him, but God is meaning, right? God.
Okay.
The death of God was not a good thing. It's just that now we're sort of caught in between. We've torn all of the former structures and institutions and stars that used to guide us have all crumbled. And we don't have anything else to replace them yet.
Okay.
But what we need to do is we need to become something more than human, right? The Ubermensch, or transcend beyond good and evil in the sense of a moral definition imposed by an external deity. But we need to find new meaning, something that we can rally around to bring meaning into the void. Now that we've killed God, and so now we have to replace him.
No, we have to replace. And I would argue that like we all know, nature abhors a vacuum. The moment he died, another one immediately stepped into its place. It's just, I think the issue that I'm having already with Nietzsche is that he's already got idealism going on in his head as to what should be, and that while it's very good. How do I put it? It's a very good process. It's a very good thing to go through. It's a very good sounding philosophy to explore for sure. So I'm not pooing it. Although maybe I'm not saying I love it either. My issue with it is it's already kind of begging the question. It's kind of saying we need this stuff already. Why? Just by saying that, you've already done it. So it's brilliant, but it's also, it's kind of like, trying to think of a good metaphor for it even. It's kind of like an apple saying there needs to be an apple tree, or an apple saying there needs to be a seed. It's like it's already implied in its own being. It's already there.
But his point really was, and that's sort of the point where he gets misinterpreted, especially by the fascists, is the idea was, well, we need a leader. We need one singular person who can impose this new meaning on society. But that's his whole point when he's talking about slave morality versus true freedom, where no, each of us has to be that for ourselves. We are all supposed to reach
and that's basically like the
into
Ubermensch, right? That's right. Like almost a Luciferian concept of an Ubermensch.
Yes, we have to reach down into the abyss and pull up new tablets of the law for ourselves.
Or as Crowley would have said, all love is the law under will. Exactly. Yeah. Do as thou wilt.
I've failed my German tonight. The will to power. That's what he's talking about. Is the will to power is not you have to be ruthless and kill everyone to ascend to the leadership of the German Empire.
Of course. But that is one way. It's just not the way he was describing. And when I'm saying that is one way, again, I'm not a moralist. I'm not saying good or bad. I'm not saying judgy. I would not like to live under that world, of course. That's not, where I'm aiming. All I'm saying is that when someone says shouldn't, well, that's like saying a wolf shouldn't eat a sheep, or that I'm not saying that they should have. I'm just saying, and this is where I get into trouble because people are going to be like, oh, Thorne's making excuses. I'm not being an apologist for Nazism, by the way. I would fight that in my life, of course. I did. Anybody who knows me from my childhood knows that I've stomped on quite a few neo-Nazis in my time. What I'm saying is that when you reach a certain point in what I'm saying, the idea of good and evil should and shouldn't, at least as a objective moralism thing, goes away. What it is like what Nietzsche would say, you have to create your own emerald, you have to create your own tablets of the law. You have to say, this is what's ethical to me based on something. What's your first principle? If your first principle is joy, like I want to experience joy, then that one statement will tell you a whole lot about what your world should be like. If your first statement is I want to experience joy, then you probably want to live in a world where joy is common, right? You want to make joy something that happens a lot. And you're probably going to have to allow for some sadness to make the joy punctuated, but you want to make sure that joy is available everywhere. So all I'm saying is that ethics is where I like to go. I like doing it. Maybe I'm misconstruing terms. Maybe ethics and morality are the same in the dictionary, but to me, morality and ethics are a little different. So when someone says we shouldn't do this, I go for what reason? Like, why are you saying that? If you're saying because it's morally wrong to kill people, I go, I don't want to kill people either. I don't like the idea. I see myself in them. It doesn't appeal to me. But I don't think there's a moral reason not to do it. I think there's an ethical reason not to. So I'm just going on a tangent, Eddie. I'm sorry.
No, that's right. Ethics is just a rational attempt at morality. That's all it means.
Fair. Yep.
You start with the foundation of an ethos, which is like you're saying some statement or principle that you think we can all agree on, and then from there we all agree on a set of rules.
Mm-hmm. And
the
key
thing is we agree on them.
We agree on them, or we agree. So that's not necessary, but that's if you want it to be objectivist. So if you have a personal choice. And one of the things in non-dualism, this is why many non-dualistic systems, the very next thing after talking about how you're all one is how we should be compassionate, right? Because the originators of that dogma, in seeing themselves in others, said, I don't want to hurt myself. Okay, yeah, makes sense, right? Who wants to hurt themselves? So the next thing was, let's make this compassionate. But the compassionate desire, though, that was a subjective desire. I don't think the desire for compassion is objective. I think it's a subjective side. And when I say that, I mean there's a separation that's happening a little bit. I think that reality is always compassionate. So like when a Buddhist is saying, and I shouldn't single out Buddhists because they probably wouldn't necessarily say this because I don't think their dogma says it. But I think when individual Buddhists and New Agers say we have to be compassionate towards one another, like it's some kind of moralistic rule, if they're thinking that, if that's what they're thinking, then they don't trust the universe to be what it is already. They've already separated out. They're already saying, I'm not the universe. I have to be a force of compassion. Oh, fuck you. You've already lost the script at that point. You have to recognize compassion and the opposite of that is built into the system automatically. Mm-hmm. Right?
Well, take for example, the situation we faced a couple of months ago with someone who shall remain nameless, would it have been compassionate for me to just let that continue? Or is it more compassionate for me to both protect my friends and also be the instrument of that person's karma?
And
thus
the
teach
opposite
him-
applied to people who had the other side of that. We saw it exactly the opposite. We said, you are doing exactly that thing you think that they're doing. And that's where we get into this furball, right? Is because what ends up happening, now you and I stepped beyond that and said, we're both just trying to do what we think is best for ourselves and each other. Right. So that was why Eddie and Thorne, despite being on opposite sides of that epic battle and struggle, were able to be like, okay, we can be friends. You think I was deluded, I think you were deluded, right? We don't hide that. We both go, yeah, I think Eddie's a little brainwashed on this. You go, oh, I think Thorne's a little brainwashed on that. And we both get to feel like we're right.
Group hugs for Satan.
Group hugs for Satan, right?
And Patchwork with the super chat wanted to let us know, I gotta say, I'm really enjoying this conversation on ethics.
Oh, goody gumdrop.
Fucking love you, Patchwork.
But take, for example, a real world example. So this is where I started to part ways with the Buddhists, is that, Buddha's like, well,
I do too, by the way. I'm not a Buddhist. I think everybody knows that. I'm not a
don't
Buddhist.
eat meat because that's not compassionate. Like, well, okay, so I live in a state, Pennsylvania, where we now have zombie deer because we have too many deer.
Yep.
Right.
And because you killed off the wolves, so you could have more everything else.
So the wolf, the individual wolf, is not acting compassionately towards the individual deer. However, wolves as a whole are being compassionate to deer as a whole.
Exactly. Right. The universe is being compassionate. Precisely. Yeah. Beautifully stated. Well stated. That actually feeds into some other things that are related to that. But that's beautifully stated. And, we run into this problem. One of the things, when I ran more in New Age circles, and I might even start doing it again to try to bring in some people who might be interested in the left-hand perspective of this, not what they would call it. What is it? The Vamachara or whatever. I'm not talking about that. But the left hand as I understand it. Some people might want to be interested in this idea. One of the things I ran into when running those circles was this, just like you said, you shouldn't eat meat. It's not compassionate. And so whatever happened to this idea that, if you're familiar with Lao Tzu, you have, the virtue that is not virtuous is virtue. That is to say, someone who does good deeds because they're good things to do and they want to make sure that they're doing good things is not actually doing a good deed. They're doing a selfish act. So it's actually built into karma, if you understand the principles of karma. If your reason for not eating meat is to avoid karma and to avoid harming the world, but that desire is selfish ultimately because you're trying to avoid that pattern, that's a selfishness that's acting right then. You're not actually avoiding karma. You're actually compounding it in some ways because you're not aware of it. It becomes a shadow. So your idea of, I shouldn't eat meat because it's not compassionate to eat meat, you might as well eat all the meat because the reason you're doing it is not actually compassionate. It is a facsimile of compassion. It's a false compassion. It's false humility to do that.
But if that idea is built into Judaism and to a lesser extent Christianity. So in Judaism, you have the concept of a mitzvah, which is a command, right? And it's not just enough to fulfill the command, although fulfilling the command is better than not fulfilling the command. To get the maximum credit for fulfilling the commandment, to get your merit badge from Yahweh, you have to do it with the sole intention of fulfilling the commandment, not to get any reward from God, not because it makes you feel good, not because this person might be able to help you down the line. You do it solely because God told you to do it and you love God so much you want to do it for him. And that same thing is built into Christianity, especially Protestant forms of Christianity, where if I help a little old lady across the street because it feels good, that doesn't count. There's no merit in that.
Sure.
You did that for selfish reasons.
Even if you hid it from the world, you did it because it made you feel good, and that alone, you're already taking a shit on the intention, right? And the thing I would say though is that the not that they're wrong, with that. But what I think their wording or their way of saying it or their way of implying it, when you say I should do it because the commandment said it, you're already ruining it in a way, because you're already making it a thing that you're supposed to do. The supposed to do should be so a person who just naturally, if you look at an animal and you say, I refuse to eat it because I love it and I don't want to hurt it. On the one hand, I would argue that that is way more sincere and honest compassion than someone who says, I don't like to eat animals because it's wrong. But that's still not perfect, because the reason you don't want to eat the animal has nothing to really do with its suffering. This is where we get into Satan territory, in my opinion. Because a true Satanist understands that even their eagerness to do good comes from ultimately a desire to feel good about what we do, to enjoy the doing. So if I don't want to eat that animal and I look at that animal and go, oh, look how he's so cute. I see myself in his eyes. I can't do that. My compassion is bubbling. I love him. All you're really doing is trying to avoid discomfort.
Mm-hmm.
It's not actually compassion yet. It's still, so that's why I joke with my wife and I say, you realize, honey, I don't actually love you, but I do love our relationship. I do love being with you. I love the way you make me feel, but I don't love you. Man, that sounds fucked up on Valentine's Day. Mm-hmm. But it's the most honest statement I could ever make of love. Anyone who says otherwise is lying to their lover. I love the way it feels to be with you. That love is true. Even if I see us as one thing, I'm still not lying, because to say that she's separate and I love her as a separate thing would be a lie too. That's not true. I love her as I love myself. So this is where I think you're saying similar things. So by the way, we're not in a, whatever, but hopefully I'm saying things that resonate somewhere with kind of where you're leading. Jay Sauber, thank you, brother. $4.99.
Eddie has left the chat.
I'm still here.
He was like, Thorne's talking. I'm getting my cup.
He took one from the Flesh Priest school.
Oh yeah, I forgot. I should make a little graphic. Only it'll just be like just a little paper sign.
No, make yours Thorne's talking and just.
We're just gonna make a GIF on a loop of me going. And just loop it.
And no, okay, so it could be Thorne's talking and then Flesh could hold up again. or still is good. Still.
Just add ...
Ultimately the only reason to do, I think the only valid reason to do anything is because you want to.
Yes,
right.
That is
and that sounds horrible, because on the one hand, it's like, well, what about pedophiles who want to rape little kids?
Yeah,
like, well,
yeah. Again, I just want to interrupt with the want thing. The want is an illusion too, but we'll leave it. Right. We're going to go from in the world of Maya. Yes, want is yes. So keep going. Sorry.
Okay, so is the problem? What's the problem? The problem is where that desire is directed. And I would argue that the reason why do so many priests molest little kids? It's because the church tells them they can't have sex, and sex is bad. And so they keep taking that desire and pushing it further and further down. Mm-hmm. And
their shadow manifests in an
Film
act.
101, once you shove that shit into the shadow, that doesn't mean it's not going to come out. It's just going to come out in progressively worse ways.
Right. Ways you don't even see coming, ways you don't even know where they're coming from. Exactly. Yeah.
Right. And so it's not, oh, do whatever you want, go nuts. It's do the shadow work, get your shit together, and at the point at which you can trust your desire, because there's competing desires, right? Mm-hmm. My desire to go rob a bank is less than my desire to live in a society where people are running around robbing banks all the time. Because if I rob a bank and I put my money in a bank, I don't want somebody else to rob that bank. So,
and that's the basis of much of my ethical perspective. Is not that I think robbery is wrong. It's that I like having money in the bank and I don't have to worry about it.
Right. And so it's the thing you cannot do I would say this is as close to a moral principle as I will get. Right? If there's one commandment, it's going to be, thou shalt not lie to yourself about your desires.
It's kind of what Crowley said, do as thou wilt. You know,
Right.
there's only one. As much as I have problems with some Crowley, that's one of the things. He said some things that go in the book of forever, in my opinion. Like there's some things he said that he touched it. Like he got that. That maybe he didn't mean it the way I'm saying it, but that statement is bang. And
Right.
I think one of the things that we touch on
Understood with the qualifier on the end of it, love is the law, love under
love is
will.
law. Right.
Um,
But love,
that's not,
the thing about love, it's a misunderstood term. You know, what is love? Well, I just told you if there's no separation, loving other is fake. That's false. So what is love?
you know, this
love.
one, you don't hurt me.
Mhm.
Don't hurt me no more.
What if you like being hurt? What if you enjoy that? So love is a state of it's a word that it's like non-duality. It's one of those words that to define love you have to go to the source, and if you don't understand the source, love doesn't make sense.
Well,
So-
Crowley was using a very specific Greek term.
Okay,
It's
good.
one used in the New Testament. It's agape.
Oh, okay. All right. So it's
and
caring.
in the
love.
New
It's
Testament,
that caring brotherly. Okay, all right. So
Well,
so that's the part I would
little bit
maybe
different.
dispute a little. Okay, go ahead.
There's 4 different words for love in the New Testament, right? There's one that is completely escaping me right now, but there's phileo, which is where we get Philadelphia, which is brotherly love. Storge. Storge is like the love between friends. Then there's eros, of course, which is more than sexual desire. It's the love between a husband and a wife in total. It includes the sexual desire, but it's bigger than that. But then agape. And so agape is the thing that gets translated in Latin to caritas, which comes into English as the English word charity.
Okay.
And the definition that I usually got in seminary, because Crowley was raised in a very similar Christian environment to how I was raised, is also the one he would have heard. And also you'll see a lot of love is the law, love under will in this. Agape is an act of the will. That is the classical medieval theological definition of what Jesus was talking about when he says love your enemies. It's a conscious decision to esteem the needs of another person as being higher than your own.
So I'm going to
do what's good for them, not what's good for yourself.
And then we run
of your
into the
own
whole.
free will.
Well, then we run into the whole. You know, kindly let me help you, or you will drown," said the monkey to the fish as he carried him up a tree. Doing what's good for other people generally means leaving them the fuck alone to fuck up in their own life.
Yes.
That's genuinely the nicest thing you can possibly do. But let me take it one step further. Go ahead. I'll let you say this, and I'm going to jump.
That gets back to my point of, if you've got somebody who's being an asshole, what's best for them? Is it to just let them go on being an asshole, or crack them on the nose and teach them a lesson?
Only if they're if they're directly hurting you, perhaps. You know, that could be argued. But no, the other statement that comes to mind is muddy water is best cleared by leaving it alone. But so I'm going to spread my ass cheeks a little bit on the word love for a minute right now. Love, the problem we have with it is we use love in a humanistic way. That is to say, it's an anthropomorphic idea. But there is a love which is higher. There is a love which is not the anthropomorphized love. It has nothing to do with being nice. It doesn't have anything to do with keeping people healthy. It doesn't have anything to do with charity. It doesn't have anything to do with lust or caring or any of that. There is a form of love which is divine. There's no word to describe it, because to do so puts it in a humanistic, anthropomorphic context. Humans get into trouble because we think love is a thing that should be done. We don't trust that love is a thing already happening. Love is the same as is true. So love and compassion are basically the same thing. Love and compassion in the spiritual, in the divine sense, are the same thing. But compassion is a state of what already is. It's not a thing that should be. The moment you say we should be compassionate, we should be loving, you've already destructed it, and you can't do it now. It's almost nihilistic to try, actually. If you leave it alone, that's why in Become the Maelstrom, to replace Crowley's, statement of do as thou wilt, my big epiphany moment was saying the only reason we suffer is because we think we're not supposed to. It's a paradoxical statement, but it's true. The moment you let go of the need to stop suffering, suffering fades out. Because you're no longer going, I shouldn't be suffering. You just kind of go, suffering. Oh, you mean pain? Oh, pain's fine. And that same principle applies to love, compassion, all of that. You are not compassionate when you think there should be compassion. You are not loving when you think there should be love. Love is a thing you do naturally. And I don't mean when you look at someone and go, I want to mate with them, or look at them and go, I want them to have the best. That's not love. Even that's not love. Love is, and maybe this is what Crowley said that made sense to me. He says, love under will. There's sort of a relationship going there. It's a self relationship. What does he mean by love under will? I'm sure there's people who said it. Maybe he said it would be different again, because you already pointed out things I didn't know that he meant. But love under will to me means, whose will are we talking about? We're talking about the will of the individual? Well, that's not real. We're talking about the will of what? Whose will? What will? If we're a non-dualist, I don't know if Crowley was, although he did get a kick out of yoga, and he did translate the word in a way I liked, calling it union. If we're talking about it as if we're saying that reality is really an exploded, lie, right? Then saying that love is an act we have to do makes no sense. It's a thing that's already there. It's already in the system, built in. It's the wolf eating the sheep or the deer. It's already built into the mechanism and the process. It's already a law of entropy, if you will.
And Crowley was using actually both will and love in ways even beyond what I was talking about, very specialized ways. So thelema means will. When he's saying will, that's the word thelema. And so when he's saying love under will, he's saying agape under thelema. And so at the front of the temple in an OTO ceremony are the two pillars that represent the two pillars of the tree of life, and also the two arms of Baphomet, right? So will, with thelema, will is written on the white pillar and agape is written on the black pillar. So thelema is like yang, and agape is like yin. Yeah, so so will is the expansive, exploding solve that breaks things apart, and agape is the feminine principle that brings them back together.
Yeah, I mean, not to oversimplify, but one is the action of love, the other is the reception or the feeling of love. Like one is the love, and the other one's like love. Like it's kind of maybe that's one way to put it. Or that's oversimplifying, but I think that might be one way to say it.
Yeah, and in sort of my practice, I use Lilith and Samael for that. So Lilith,
that was an interesting thing you did. Yeah,
the contracting, although it gets a little more complicated. Never mind. That's something to do with on its own.
Yeah, that's something in Eddie, like when Eddie does his classes that you used to do. I don't know why he stopped those. I didn't make it to them, but I liked that you were doing them. So Eddie's Tuesdays.
I'll have to do one again.
Yeah, Eddie's Tuesday lectures. Because even though I hate gobbledygooking stuff up with superstition and stories, but I'm realizing that on some level you need them, and just because we're still stuck in a world of symbols and lies anyway. And when I say stuck, I don't mean that in the negative. Somebody had said, and I wanted to respond to it. I'm not negatively, but I think it's Lady Capera Ankh. She says, Maya is the thing. Let me see if I can find Maya in the cycle of samsara. Break free of Maya. That desire to break free of Maya is why you'll never leave. There it is. Maya, world of illusion, break the cycle of samsara. Why? Why? What's wrong with it? If you think there's something, if you think there's something, no.
Deep in Maya.
Yeah, balls deep in Maya all the time. If you think there's something wrong with Maya, you're never going to get out. Never. Mm-hmm. I promise you. I hope you never get out, in fact, because you still haven't figured it out. I mean this with kindness, by the way. I'm not saying this like you don't get something, or it's a thing I see all the time that's a problem in a lot of these traditions, is they've placed, and they've done it on purpose. And this is to their credit, by the way. I'm not criticizing the religion or the practice. This is to their credit. They have given you an unattainable goal. They have set you on a grail quest for a cup that never existed. They've set you in motion to look for an escape from Maya. You only escape from Maya when you don't care. And what I mean by not care, I don't mean like you cease loving and caring. I mean when you no longer mind that you're in it.
Mm-hmm.
You eject from the cycle of samsara when you realize that all is that. You can be in the center of it and observe it all going around you, like the metaphor goes. You can be the hub of the wheel, and you can watch it all go around and feel a sense of detachment. But that's not true. You are the whole wheel. You're the whole thing happening. And to eject from that samsara cycle, to say that that's something, or imply that it's something you should seek. What it really is there's a million billion seekers that want to eject from Maya and they don't know how. And so the religion says, okay, here we go. Do this, do that, do 50 other things, and just keep working at it, guys. And it might take you a few fucking lifetimes. In fact, it'll take you 30 lifetimes just to get here. And then if you're lucky and you've been a goat long enough, and then you're this, you'll get into this. And then someday, as a human being, you're going to go up and down. Maybe you'll get to be a Buddhist monk or something. And then maybe 5 or 6 or 20 lifetimes of being a Buddhist monk, maybe then you'll be a cow. And then you're on your way out. Then you're almost done. And they get all these like levels of enlightenment and freedom, and they just keep putting it a little further. That's on purpose. Just telling you it's something you should want is already, it's what's the word? There's a Buddhist word for it. Skillful method. I forget what the Buddhist term is, but it's upaya. It's called skillful method. It's like me taking my kid and doing reverse psychology on him and saying, I don't think you could do those dishes. You suck at doing dishes or something, right? And he just bang, bang, bang and does the dishes to impress me. Me saying you're never going to get, me saying that you should get out of Maya is like a form of that. It's giving you an undoable thing. It is, Alan Watts said it best, a fool who persists in his folly will become wise. That's an old statement, but he applied it to this stuff. Someone who is trying desperately to escape it never, ever will. If your personal desire is to exit the cycle of samsara, you're just never gonna. The thing that exits the cycle can't exit, if that makes sense. The thing that wants to get out can't. If you say, I want to leave the cycle of samsara, it can't happen because the thing that wants that is the cycle of samsara. It is that thing. Which is why I become the maelstrom. I said, last statement, that's why I become the maelstrom. I said, you suffer only because you think you're not supposed to and for no other reason.
Yeah, my version of that in sort of my story of my mythos behind what I do is that, I'm a Gnostic. So, and traditionally Gnostics say that flesh is a prison. Well, flesh is only a prison because you think it's a prison and not a playground. Right. It was made to be a playground. Mm-hmm. And the first thing you have to realize is that if you're in a cage, it's one you built for yourself. Now, you might have been using your blueprints or you might have been using somebody else's blueprints, but there's no lock on the door. The only thing you have to do is stop.
Yep. And you don't want to. Nobody wants to.
And as long as you think it's a prison, it's going to continue being a prison. And the instant you realize it's a playground, it's not a prison anymore.
Right. And then it's a playground. You just have, that's, and even that, if you do that on purpose, you're still doing it wrong. Mm-hmm. Right. If you're going, I want it to be a playground, you've just put it that much further away from you. I have that video, and I say this video, guys, everybody in the video right now listening, if you have not watched it yet, I'm going to toot my own horn here for a minute. I have an older, excuse me, I'm going to burp because I just had a lot of ginger ale. Woo. If you haven't seen it, and Flesh, if you get any bigger on the screen, I'm just going to leave it like that. I'm just going to leave it. That's you. That's you now. Let me make it bigger.
You're saying
and
the flesh is a prison, but this fucking NDI box is a prison right now. I don't know why it's jumping around the way it is.
We're just going to leave it just like that for at least a good few minutes, just because it wants to do it, so we're going to let it do it. Everybody who loves flesh, everybody look right now. Here it is. All right. So for those of you who like my work and don't think I'm an arrogant, smug son of a bitch, because I sound like one, I promise you I am one. For those of you who like my work, and I think if Eric Quetting is here right now, he's going to be like, not this again, because I was badgering him to watch it about 1,000,000 times. There's a video I did, I guess it was 1.5 years ago, and it was called Godhood for Dummies. I challenge you all to watch that video and understand it. If you do, you just basically understood what Eddie said, and Eddie said it very well. It's a little different. It's a little bit more mystical sounding, I suppose, but it's the same basic premise. But if you listen to it, I think it might perspectivize it for you a little bit better, and you might enjoy the shit out of it. So put it on your list. Watch that next. Godhood for Dummies. Watch that tomorrow. Make it on your list. Make it on your plans. Right, Eric? Right, Mr. Quetting? Didn't I badger you with that? So Flesh is also telling me we have another caller. Do we want to eject Eddie and bring in the next caller, or do we want Eddie to linger in the backdrop? What would we like to do? What would Eddie like to do?
The next caller is on Discord, so we would have to switch over.
I don't like this Discord thing anymore.
And EA just showed up too. I was hoping to get another pull quote for my first book.
Eric already saying Godhood for Dummies. This again. Oh my God. That's because you showed up. I saw you in the comments. I'm like, oh, I gotta say it. I gotta bring it up again. Thank you for showing up, brother. We love Eric Quetting.
Oh, you know what? I totally forgot earlier with taking the bathroom break and everything.
You poop?
Everybody poops.
I don't know. I've heard Kim Jong-un goes inside himself. He just kind of like recycles.
Jay Sauber had a super chat, didn't have anything to say, just gave us a little tip, so we fucking appreciate you.
Thank you.
Just the tip.
Thank you. Just the tip. He gave us just. We should be able to somehow make different like tip numbers and just make one just the tip. No comment, just the tip.
All right, so I can
like
bail if you guys want me to. I'm whatever you need me to do.
I don't think want is the right word, but I think it's probably proper.
I have messaged them to let them know they're not hanging out in a voice channel yet, though. So once I see that, I'll call out.
Okay.
But for right now, we have nobody to get to.
Eric, I'm loving that idea, and we wanted to come.
Needs.
Thank you, Eddie. Eric said, love you guys, want to come hang out some point way soon. Things are starting to look better. I mean, you know my intentions. We just got to make economics and global policies work together. And sooner or later, we're going to do it. And I look forward to that, man. I think, meeting you and Alex and having a good time anywhere around here or around there or even around Flesh Priest would be a fucking awesome week or weekend or whatever. I would fucking drop most priorities would get toshed for such an example of fun. So hopefully that happens, brother. I totally agree with you. I think it's just a matter of patience, like you said. Things are starting to look better in the trenches. It's just a matter of patience and just waiting for the stars to guide the way. So let's give Eddie a big thanks.
Yeah, fucking thank you as always. The next caller is ready if we wanted to hop over to him.
All right, Eddie, thank you, brother. I'll give you the Osiris, the satanic Osiris. I love you, brother. You impress me always with your intelligence and knowledge. You're totally deluded on that one thing, but everything else, brother, you are. I allow you to light the candles at my temple, brother. You are fucking awesome, and I hope you let me do the same for you. You're a fucking cool dude. So
whatever, fascist.
You better. He's gone. Get rid of him. He's wiping from the server.
I will see you Tuesday, Eddie.
Bye.
Later.
Bye, brother.
All
right, now that he's gone, I'd be like, what the fuck? You can't call me that. I'm going to be a fascist and say he can't call me that anymore. If he calls me that, I want him flogged in front of everyone. Damn it, you're huge again. Could you control your bit rate, please?
The cheese wheel does as the cheese wheel pleases. All this talk about the flesh being a playground got me a little hot and bothered.
Control thy bit rates, my son.
Oh, fucking shit. Okay. I'm going to. Why are they? Okay. Do you see them? They're in the Discord.
All right, I'll jump in now. I was waiting for the do it moment. Let me hear it.
Okay.
Do it.
Yep. Make it so. Number one.
Oh, that also works. Although he kind of, I don't like him as much. But oh, it's Coda. Coda's pretty cool so far as I can tell. Here we go. I'm gonna mute Fleshy. All right,
Oh,
Fleshy
yep,
is
let's
muted.
hear ourselves double.
Yep.
Hello
Okay.
there, Coda. So I noticed they have a muted thing on. I don't know.
Yeah, they're doing that themselves apparently because I'm looking, I don't see it.
So we will hang out for 1 second while that gets sorted. I love that Eddie. I love Eddie. That was just
Coda says push to talk exe not responding. Go into your hoopajoop, the little gear, and just turn that whole fucking shlamlabam off. And I don't think it's an admin issue. I think it's on your side. I'm pretty sure. Let me take a look. Because you're general. You should be able to talk. Chamber of Voices is totally No, we should be able to hear him now. I see him transmitting. Coda, can you hear us?
Oh,
There he
we
is.
can hear you now.
I hear him now. I hear him now. Cloud and clear.
I'm here before DH Thorne and fucking EA Coedian. I didn't expect my night to end like this.
Well, I mean, EA's not in the vocal, but you never know. He does call in sometimes.
Yeah, that is true.
So
Yeah.
What's going on, Coda? It's nice to meet you. I see you active in the chats and the stuff. So lay it on us, brother. What did you want to talk about?
Honestly, I had a few things on my mind, but I thought it would be great to just get on like a roll of metaphysics.
So long as it's not the argumentative kind, like the other person that was having a conversation the other day.
I saw
Like, can
that
we
on
just
the
have a sharing
camera
contest?
moments.
Somebody tell Eric what I said about the sharing. What was it? Sharing contest? Let's have it. What was it? Was it sharing contest?
Let's outshare one another, not
Yeah,
out-argue, something along those lines.
Yeah, something like that.
I did update the bot, by the way.
Did you? All right. Hopefully you used the wording because it was so bad but so good. But I think he'll like that because he's sort of in a similar mindset. He doesn't, not that he hates necessarily being challenged. I don't really hate being challenged. What I hate is when people want to challenge me and not the ideas. Stop trying to challenge me. If you have a problem with the idea, challenge it yourself. Like I'll be a representative of that side if you want, but I'm not here
100%.
to. Right. So
But there's
all
some
right.
people that waste everyone's time and kind of act pompous for the sake of it. That's no, I try not to do that shit. So.
And I'm giving him way too much energy by talking about him so much, but damn it, that stuff just grates on me like friggin' like rocks on rocks. It's just oh, come on.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, but anyhow, actually, let's go back to one of the first questions that I kind of asked regarding sort of the power behind more hidden forms of like deities and divinities.
Yep,
like for EA Coedian, he has his own. He has fucking. I forgot. Amon, Lucifer, Amon.
Lucifer,
Yes,
Amon.
social
Yep.
anxiety's fun. And
Just
all of
breathe
that,
and don't
so-
worry about 45 people watching. Usually we have close to 70, so you're actually having an easier night tonight. So just chill.
Oh yeah, of course.
You always do that. I don't know if you think it helps, but let me tell you, it doesn't. Certainly, it
That's the
didn't on
point.
my
No,
end.
that's the point. Because I figure if I make you feel the most anal shriveling fucking fear that I possibly can, it can only get better from there. So the 46 now people that are watching you are going, come on, bro, come on, you're part of it. Come on, call. So don't worry about it, Coda. Just
Point taken. I got this.
You got this. You already had the balls to call in, so you're already, or whatever. You got the whatever it is that required that. You are equipped, brother. So lay it on us. So go ahead. So you're saying Lucifer or Maimon, which it's fun because that whole term, like we could split that up a billion different ways, and we could be actually saying we're talking about, either Baal Haman or Amun of Amun Ra fame. We could be saying that's what we're talking about. If we're doing it in the theistic, that could be the theistic thing, right? Or is it something else? So go ahead, lay it on us. I'm sorry to keep.
Oh no! By all means, go on your own tangents. That's what we're all here for. But
I think that's true. I think by now that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So, no, I didn't exactly mean in a strict theistic sense. I don't necessarily boil down my thinking behind sort of labels of that sort. I much rather kind of just jumble it all into one category and roll with it. Chaos magic is just basically just putting everything in one dough and making your own shit with it.
It certainly is inclusive and eclectic, and that's one of my favorite things about it. I don't love the what's the word I always use, the postmodernist angle it tends to have, but the general eclectic idea is definitely good. But yeah, so keep going, brother. So back to what you're saying about hidden or whatever secret. I forget the word you use, but
well, the mass allegories that most of the people put a lot of power, put a lot of thought into, and there's kind of somewhat of a belief behind it where there's like enough of a following to really give enough power to this, and sort of at least in a psychological sense, that it's really, as you were mentioning with Superman, and then the views dropped for a second.
People have done that, by the way. I haven't met them in a long time, but when I was growing up, there were what you would call chaos magicians. Now I don't know what they called themselves then. They would invoke things like Batman and Superman and shit, and they'd get things to happen. I would go, I don't see how that's working, but it's working for you, so cool.
No, it's profound. It's them doing it. That's how it's possible.
Exactly.
So, but yeah,
at the time I didn't.
Do you think that there's actually like a decent amount, or I would say a reservoir of power behind like things that only a collective few believe in, or could there potentially be a possibility for much more?
Sure.
I guess not control, but kind of direction of the flow in that specific focus of that fragment of a deific mask. If that
I get what you're saying, but I'm gonna destruct it a little bit by because like what I like to do is a form of negation. I like to strip the bullshit out of things and try to figure out what it is we're actually talking about. Not just in definitive, like what's the definition. I mean, strip out what is the ontological origin of this thing. Like, why are we talking about this in the first place? So this idea that there is this group egregore, right? Valid. We all can see it around us. And just for the moment, we'll stay in the world of Maya, right? So we're not even going to go into the non-dualistic objective subjective crunch that we talk about, the destruction of this. If we dissolve subjective objective, you already have your answer. It doesn't matter what you work with because it's all you. So then that right there, but that doesn't, for the children that need to be told to use candles, we have to go a little bit further than that. We have to say something along the lines of what I was saying with archetypes. So presumably that smaller, fewer people interested, however you want to describe it, that God that only a few people talk about, or that incarnation of it that only a few people talk about, that personal version, we'll say, with very few exceptions, maybe, because I don't know of any, there might be some. They are all based on an archetypal thing, right? So I'll give you an example. I'll try to give you. I'll make one up. We'll do it that way. You have a couple of kids. And when they're growing up, they spend the weekends at their uncle's cabin in the woods. And they have this experience one night while walking home after playing tag in the deep forest, that they see this mysterious entity that is made up of leaves and sticks, and it's got a bucket on its head. All right. Now, this might have been a prank. This might have been just something they thought they saw, but they believe it's there. They as children have this. This is a real thing. Okay. And they go home and they're fucked up over it, but they're smart and they're cool kids. They're not just average. They're cool. They decide they want to make friends with the thing. So they go out and they go looking for it, and they never really find it again, but they see evidence of it all over. And somehow out of this develops a magical practice where they communicate with this thing. They leave offerings for it, and they disappear the next day because, of course, animals are coming and taking it away, whatever your rationality wants to be. But their belief is just building with it. So to the person in the world of Maya, so far what we have is an egregore, right? We both agree there's an egregore. And it's a limited one. It's only based on two people's expectations. We say, okay, that's all fair and good. But in that story I told you is an entity, an egregoric entity that is hanging off the bones of archetypal nature. Now, the specific archetype may depend on what they were expecting. It may be they were scared of it. So it's something to do with the archetypes of fear. It may be a manifestation of the archetype of fear and dread and those kinds of archetypes. The villain, right? The villain archetype in the Jungian sense, maybe. So they have a villain archetype or whatever, or maybe it's the archetype of the mysterious stranger or whatever it is, but there's an archetypal source behind it. That archetypal source is, in the Maya limited perspective, that is the powerhouse behind the little guy. So ultimately, that little guy, if they're working with that little guy in Magick, could have big effects, theoretically. And one would argue, in my opinion, like, what's his name? Dean Eichler, right? I think that's his name, Flesh, right? I really love the guy. We're going to get him on sometime. I need a producer who can contact him, because I don't think he'll listen to me.
On it.
I would love to have him on. He'd be up there with you. He'd be up there with EA and Behemoth X and some of the other people we've had. I would be like, yes, that's a high point in my life. Hopefully we'd get along, because I really want to love the guy, because he's really cool. Anyway, he had said something in a video a while back, because I occasionally watch his videos too, and luckily he doesn't put out too many, so I can catch most of them. People like me and EA, we put a couple out a week, so I can't watch really active YouTubers. But he put out something a while back talking about spirit communication. Now, he's more theistic, I think. And he's definitely, Thelemic or Golden Dawn? I forget what his main... And Hermetic. He gets into all of it, really. And I think he was actually trained as a Renzai Zen monk, actually, while he was in prison. I think he was ordained, actually. But, so... Yeah, no, it was something like that. I forget what he did. Something like that. And he wears, sometimes he wears the regalia of it. But anyway... he said something that was kind of theistic, but he had pointed out that when you first start working with a spirit, you're working with your, I don't know if he used the word egregore, but he meant your egregore of it. But then as that egregore gets more like the actual thing, a resonance happens. So when its vibration matches the resonance of the actual being, then real contact between something that's you and completely not you takes place. And I mechanically like that. In other words, it's as good an explanation as you need a red candle to speak to Lilith. It works. It's an okay. Go ahead.
Sorry, I lose my tangents very easily. But I want to say that in that regard, we would have to be kind of, in a sense, aiming for cosmic wells of power, in the sense that these masses that we would try to be sort of aligning our own, like, egregores, as he said, like trying to align them with the greater actual well of it, the whole, like, that mass that really
talking
is
about,
core root. That would actually, have to really mean that, like, that's a set standard. And yeah, we can tap into that as long as we have, the bits and pieces in our own minds that we can really, tether it to not one, but multiple other sort of wells of inspiration and power. But in connecting to do you think that it would actually loosen or water down the sort of influence that the set roots and wells have? No, because I think that's a mechanistic look at it. And I think that you said it earlier was much more accurate. You said you're the one doing it. So, remember you said, that was like one of the first things you said. You're the one doing it. Yeah. So there's nothing to water down. What happens is you can cloud things. Most things in my mystery school have to do with clarity, it's not additive, it's reductive. So when I say getting in touch with the egregore and then the archetype, you'll find that as you do that, the egregore vanishes and you get confronted more with the archetype behind it, and you end up working with that more directly, but you use the egregore as a lever because that's something relatable, whereas the archetype is more nebulous. It's harder for you to keep in an analytical or any kind of mind frame. So if I'm talking to Lucifer, I'll start with some picture of him or chant or context that I recognize his archetype through, and I'll work through that until it becomes a sound. So one of the things you use a mantra for, this is kind of related, but it's going to sound like it's not at first. When you're using a mantra or something like that, at first it's a word or a sound and it makes a certain sense. If you speak the language, it's actually worse. The better mantras should be in a language you don't understand, which is why, Connolly's, what do they call it? The ends, they work so well because they're not in a language you understand. They're probably a fake language, completely made up, but it's a valid way because it's gobbledygook. It's a sigil.
It's no different than it's an audio sigil. So a mantra, when they work best,
tongues and channel the Holy Spirit. So
a lot like that. Yep, a lot like that. Not exactly, but a lot like that. So when you're doing a mantra, you're supposed to it's supposed to become a sound. This is why the best mantras are called seed sounds. Like lam, vam, om. Those are seed sounds. And those sounds are like I've said to Flesh before and everybody before, a sad song is sad in any language. A sad song is sad in any culture, pretty much. It's human-centric, but it's something we all identify with. It's very likely that if I play a sad song to somebody 10,000 years ago in a culture I don't recognize, a part of them would go, kind of makes me feel
they'll
sad.
pick up on the intent you're putting into it because of the relativity of it.
Something about it is universal, but yes, something relatively universal about it. There's a chance they wouldn't, but I think that they're like a simple
the moment you bring up music, I want to argue.
No, because you can't argue with me on
what you're
that
saying is right, but the asterisk.
I have a feeling there's going to be an asterisk stream after this. So like sad violin. If I went to a caveman 50,000 years ago and was like, listen to this, I have a feeling something in him would recognize sad violin as sad, is all I'm saying. Maybe it wouldn't be the violin, maybe it wouldn't be the notes, maybe it wouldn't be the words. Something contained within that sound would resonate with that. So this is, again, you have the seed sounds in the chakra, which are more culturally specific, yes, but there's something about them that resonates, like Om. This idea that there's a hum, which represents the entirety of being and the source sound of the universe, resonates with us on a deep mental level. We understand that there's a vibration to the Maya that we see. So we know that makes sense. This Om, that's got to be what it sounds like. We don't know exactly if it's a C, an A, or a B, but we know that that's what it's probably like, right? And science does have a sound for it, if I remember correctly, that if they combine all the all the vibrations they can detect, there is a hum that they can pick up. But anyway, so by the same token, when you're doing a mantra or you're doing an invocation or you're doing the visualization and objectification, we'll say, of a spirit, you're creating you're imagining them in your ritual space as another example. When you're doing that, you start there because your analytical mind needs something to do and you need something to fixate on and you need a gateway, right? I love the word gateway because it really represents what consciousness is doing. So you need a gateway for your consciousness to go from the context of the material, rational world that you're in and either your full consciousness or just your subconsciousness to pass through that gate and commune with the actuality of what's being made a gate for. So if I'm looking at Lucifer in my ritual and I'm doing the mantra that I made and I'm seeing a picture of him, like maybe I'm taking my favorite, what's his fucking name? I can't think of it, but the guy who did Illustrated Paradise Lost. If I take those illustrations and I use the mantra and I'm visualizing and I'm thinking about all the lore and I see him standing there and he's sitting on a throne, and his hands on his fists like out a freaking golden axe or Conan or something. He's got, bright lights. I picture this, and all these things are symbolic elements because of what I recognize him as. He's a little bit, not the word sardonic, he's a little bit like an angry emo kid, and he's kind of mad that he's been sort of put in hell, but he's rebellious and he wants to be free. And that, as I get there, these things fade. They stop being real to me. They start being, Gustav Dore, thank you, Evan. They start being more, they go away.
Or in the real sort of actuality of this deity.
No, yes, but in a non-mental way. So if I try this sometime if you haven't, okay, think of a word. We'll say Eddie Romanov, or no, we'll think of something that makes more sense. We'll say dishwasher, okay? Think of the word dishwasher, okay? After this stream, go sit in anywhere. Go sit in the bathroom, I don't care. Go sit somewhere and just keep saying...
Sit in the dishwasher?
You could sit in the dishwasher. And just keep saying the word dishwasher over and over and over. And at some point, the word becomes disobjectified. It stops meaning anything. It just becomes a sound. This is true for everybody. Your brain gets bored of saying it, and so it starts disassociating and just it stops listening to it, and it just becomes you'll pick up a rhythm, and then after a while, that rhythm goes away. It's just and it just keeps getting more and more fundamental until it's just sound. In the same way, a sigil is that's the same way a sigil works. That's the same way a ritual works. That's the same way focusing on a spirit in magic works. That's the same way all of this works, is you eventually dissolve that and the unspeakable, the non-analytic truth, the thing that cannot be said that it represents. Just like we were talking about love before, and I said love, the word love is not love. It's not the right word. There's a spiritual love that exists, but it is not anthropomorphic, is one way to say it. There's love is something that we all intuitively know what it is, but we cannot describe, and when we try to describe it, we limit it, and therefore we break it, and we can't do it right. When we just do it, we do it just fine. So Lucifer is in the same capacity. If I see Lucifer as, like, this is why I get down on people who get superstitious too far, because they're caught in the world of symbol about Lucifer. And so Lucifer is this, and that's all he is, and he's a god, and he's a this, and he's a that, and they objectify it so much that they do reach something. Don't get me wrong. It's not like, don't you dare. It's more like, just do that until it goes away and you don't see it anymore, and then you're going to start to feel something. You know, spirit world is more about feelings and intuitions and states of gnosis and being, not intellectual knowledge. You know, this is so you get
Really
in tune.
Life in the sort of astral to really like flow into you in a much more primal way.
I suppose. I mean, using the word astral is already destroying it because you've just named it. But yes. But you're right in the.
Yeah,
I think what you're trying to say is right.
And went for it.
No, you're fine. I'm not criticizing. I'm just clarifying, because I think I do it too, and I'm only telling it to you because you're listening right now and trying to make sense of it. So as you're making sense of it, I like to be irreverent about what you're making sense of and just say you're wrong anyway. But I don't mean you're wrong. I'm teasing. It's just that word is just another word. So long as when you say astral, your analytical side is saying astral, but you know that astral is just a stupid word that doesn't actually work. It doesn't mean anything. Mm-hmm. But the form, as we say, the Platonic form, I guess would be the word, Plato's theory of forms, the form of astral is a real thing. But to call it form already destroys it. It already makes it something else. So
just like magical fractals. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So at some point, I mean, this is why in the class I teach on Mondays, the reason why I do this way is I teach people transcendental experiences first. We do meditation because you need to be able to get to a place of disobjectification. You need to be able to get to a place where subjective and objective break down, even if only fleetingly or even if only from a distance. But as long as you can get there and say, I think I see it. Okay, so long as that's where you're going, you start to get to a point where you understand what the gazing state means, you understand the connection state, and it's way more subtle. Right? So but to go back to the little spirits, because I think we're gonna have to go soon. What are we on, hour 3 and change almost? No, we're almost up to hour 3. When you're going back to the little spirits question, you know, the we'll call them the little spirits, right? The personal spirits, maybe that's the best way, the personal spirits. We've all got them. In fact, shadows are a good example of them. So I don't know if Kodo's hanging up or just okay, he's here. So
sorry.
No, that's fine.
Still here. Sorry about that.
So just keep rolling that around So just keep rolling it around in your mind until it stops being something you think about. Remember what I said earlier about when you're struggling with a problem, and it really pays, bang your head against the wall until you just know you can't go further and just put it down, walk away and sleep on it, and come back tomorrow and you'll have the answer. Because the part of you that's doing it isn't the analytical side. The analytical side is talking about it. Your analytical side is what people perceive of me, of D.H. Thorne. The thing that talks endlessly is the analytical side. But I am not that. That's just my bugle. And it just goes. And then I just hopefully shape it and turn it in the right direction. The same way, if you really think about this and really just battle this fucker, but you start with a seed, we'll say the seed of non-duality, or the seed of duality, or the seed of objectivism, or whatever. Preferably non-dualism, because that to me is the right one. But if it doesn't work for you, of course, do something else. But start at that seed and really try to destruct everything you see against that. Say, okay, non-dualism, if you're true, then what is the one thing? And then go on a quest to find it. And non-dualism doesn't mean one thing, by the way. Not exactly, that's monism. Non-dualism means not two. It doesn't say one, it says not two. it's saying something.
A finite definition, much more of a, I guess, a free flow version of not necessarily a blueprint, but a foundation that everyone can necessarily work with.
Mm-hmm. And the bad thing with foundations like this is, unfortunately, it keeps you in the wrong. But I keep saying, like bringing two electrodes closer together. Eddie knows all about electrodes. When you bring close enough together, something happens and a spark jumps across, and suddenly realization happens. So just keep banging this drum until you don't hear it anymore. Right? Maybe that's like that's Thorne's koan of the night. Bang the drum till you don't hear it anymore. And then you'll know. Then you'll know what it actually sounds like.
Implementation for a reason.
Yeah.
So yeah, but no, I understand what you're getting now, what you're saying, and we all fucking appreciate it very much. So, but
I know I appreciate it because I just love talking.
Questions were to forms that don't actually have. I mean, like thought forms and aggregories that you necessarily kind of brought to life yourself that have.
You mean like servitors? More like servitors?
You can connect to your subconscious definition of it and have it take on its own meaning in life. So,
well, for it to take on its own meaning in life, I mean, again, we're talking about a lot of this is mutually destructive. In other words, we're using words that destroy the meaning already. But in this, in this Maya delusion, in order for your singular creation that only you know about to work and take on a life of its own, you're going to have to give it to somebody else, right? You're going to have to make it apparent to somebody else. You're going to have to tell a friend. If you keep it to yourself, then all you're doing is making it manifest through components of yourself. So maybe it'll be your subconscious that's making it manifest. It won't take on a life of its own. It's still like vampirically attached to you, right? It's
so
still
you have to pass it on to it.
To a point.
Kind of have like a vibrational contingency, if you will.
I mean, again, if we're going to be in our heads about it, yeah, I don't do that. Like, I don't intellectually sit there and go, oh, I got to create this being and make sure everybody knows about it, otherwise it won't work. No, it just happens to follow, right? It's just a natural consequence. Everybody, my wife knows I have several familiars. I have videos about several of them. Did I create them or find them? Does it matter? No. But they exist in a bigger space than just me. In fact, I wrote about one of them in a book, and I'll be writing about them again in my next book. So what did I say also about Become the Maelstrom? In the most irreverent way possible, I'm going to tell you Become the Maelstrom is a book of bullshit, but the more people use that bullshit, the more it works. The better it works. Now, when I say it's bullshit, that doesn't mean that it's useless or bad or in any way a lie. Like usually we say bullshit like lie, but I mean bullshit as in it's not itself. It's nothing but bullshit.
Dogmatic. Beautiful. I give it to people that really need the liberation in their life. Actually, two people, my two like basically brothers in blood. They were changed by it.
Oh wow!
And
Thank
it worked better than like even like a lot of other left-hand path and other philosophical material that I gave them. So your stuff was highly beneficial to them.
Oh, thanks, man. Thank you.
Of course.
You know, I mean, it's tough for me to be there. I'm not used to getting I mean, I'm getting used to it over the years, but I'm not used to hear people going, wow, I like this. Because I go, yeah, but this is just what I, like, I don't know. I don't know how to say it because it sounds egoistic just even say that. But to me, it's like, wow, really? Like, wow, okay, that. It makes me humble, actually. Even though it blows my ego out of proportion, it also makes me humble. So I go, wow, there's a lot of people out there listening to me that I better be careful what I say. That's why I talk about my asshole so much, if I got to be honest with you.
Well,
Flesh, how often do I talk about my asshole outside of this?
Oh, like every third word.
Okay, yeah.
God damn it.
Just for you two, we won't get into that subject. Maybe another time, but yeah, you two won't have it. So, but for real though, like, even though some people might literally become followers, literally not exactly being true to their own work and the work that you're trying to really, like, show them, which is their own. But even whenever they do actually become followers and become very dogmatic, they kind of need something to break away from. They need something to kind of, like, you need chains in order to break them first.
True. No, yeah, and you have to have the experience of breaking those chains to be free, right? Like freedom from the start isn't freedom. You need to have, yeah, that's very, I don't know if you meant to say that, but damn, that's a wise statement. Very good.
Yeah, I let wisdom flow. I don't know where it comes from.
That's the best place. That's where it does come from when you don't know.
Yeah, I know. That's what that's what I'm trying to do here. But yeah. So, but yeah, what I wanted to say is, even though if some people are actually like genuinely misusing their work, as in misusing it to kind of lie to themselves and do the opposite. Even though there are some that are gonna be doing that, even though that's a consequence of whatever, it's honestly it's just a part of their path, and sooner or later they're gonna wake up, and
Yeah,
you're gonna
yeah.
be an essential part of that awakening.
That-
So, and not to
all I
ego
was
buff you,
was
but,
was the noise that they decided sounded wise because the wisdom was in them. It has nothing to do. I'm just a crying baby, and someone goes, a crying baby reminds me of the meaning of the. It's that's all it is. I mean, it's not me being humble. It's not me being humble. I genuinely believe that, because when I listened to Alan Watts didn't teach me a damn thing that I didn't already know. But
I honestly found him a bit up his own ass.
No, that's not what I mean. I mean that he's my favorite teacher of all. I mean, a lot of what you like about Become the Maelstrom is inspired by him.
Well, I mean, I can see why. He's written some beautiful things. I actually own his Book of Wisdom and Book of the blue one. Just the little ones though.
Mm-hmm.
But I still feel that he's really, I guess, slightly egotistical about his extremely deep understanding of just everything, really.
I don't know. Sounds like me. Sounds exactly like me to me. In fact, I think worrying about whether it's egotistical or not is actually more saying something about you than him. He's comfortable with his ego, which means he gets it. If you're not comfortable with his ego, that means you're not comfortable with your ego.
I like that, actually. I have never seen that. That's beautiful. I'm going to put more thought into that.
I mean, I think he said something like that. I think that actually came from him. I might actually got that. Maybe not that specific alignment of words, but that. So Alan Watts to me was, oh, I love you, Eddie. Eddie, thank you so much. Eddie's comment. And let me get a really good slow, fucking, Breakfast Club clap. No, that was beautiful though. Alan Watts is up his own ass, because that's where the magic is. We all know that magic is in the butt.
Oh, yes, of course.
So no, I mean, if you knew, the guy was a raging alcoholic. He died because of that. And, but was it all an act? I think he knew it was all an act. And that's why he was right. He knew all of this is an act. He knew you're an act. I'm an act. We're all an act. And he knew that. One of my favorite things he said was, I am not here to convert you to anything. I am a performer. I am an entertainer. I am like a musician playing Mozart. I'm not trying to tell you Mozart's better. It's just that I love Mozart and I play it well. And you pay me for it.
Actually,
so woohoo.
Literally said that on a few of his YouTube videos. So yeah.
And that's one of my favorite, that's what I mean. That's one of my favorite things he ever said. That was like, oh, he's basically saying, yeah, that's
why I gave him a day in the first place, actually. That was like the only reason. I was like, all right, I'm down.
Yeah, and I think the issue is, and I think that's why I do it too. I haven't said it in a while, but that's always been my premise, is I'm here to entertain you guys with what I think. And I'm not telling you what it is that it is. I'm telling you what I see that it is. And for you, it may become, I've always said, you have your own little subjective truth, and that's you. And this is mine.
Yeah.
And I will sometimes say you're wrong if I can objectively say it, but there's always a point where I'll say, hey, if that's what you believe, I think you're wrong, but go for it. And
yeah, every Gmod server is very vastly different, even though they're in the same subjects.
Remember, every point in the universe is the center of its own universe. So each one's going to have a different universe to look at. No two are going to be the same. So for me to say that what I see is always true for everyone isn't fair. But if someone says the word bear means goat, then I'm going to have to say you're full of shit, right? Because there's an objective thing that we agree upon in the consensual reality matrix that we find ourselves. But on some level, I've got to say, no, that may be true for you. And if that's true for you, that also means in the subjective objective collapse, it's true for me too. It's just true for me in an outside way.
Well said.
Right. So anyway, brother, I think we're going to bounce you out because we're about done with our scheduled time. I don't know if we have another caller, but I don't know if I don't want to do a 4-hour night like last time, Flesh. What, do we have anybody else?
No, Coda, you're our tail gunner for the night.
All right, cool. Coda, you were cool, dude. Come back again, man. I think
Can't handle compliments.
I don't know. Maybe he just thought I was going to start talking again. I was saying, Cody,
Yeah.
you're cool, dude. Make sure you come back again and go ahead. Give us a final.
Honestly, I'll definitely try to, and fucking, I'll do my typical: fear not the dark and let the feast begin.
Oh, fuck yeah, I love that.
That sounds like something you tell your enemies, man. Woo.
No, friends and enemy. You know, I
Friends-
don't think anyone's an enemy. Everyone's a friend, even if they end up at the end of the blade. You know.
Hey, Eddie basically said in not so many words, he said the wolf is a friend of the deer. So
Yeah.
yes, yeah. So
It's all on the same side. So yeah. Anyhow, thank you very much for and I don't just mean you two, I mean everyone here. Thank you everyone for your time. Seriously, I appreciate everyone here. You all are on a fucking amazing path and you're doing everything.
thank you, brother. We try, and it's
Yeah,
part of the
dude.
fun for us. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, the money's been going south lately, but that could have something to do with my inspiration too. But it's been getting
Just
tougher all the time.
Got back.
What's that?
Oh no, just finish up. You finish that book and
Get the
you'll
next
have,
book out. It'll go back up. Yeah, probably. A writer writes, right? And if I'm not writing, what am I doing? I'm just being a slob. So for sure. So I will get back to that and get it out. But yeah, for real, dude, definitely come back. And I guess Fleshy, let's wrap up the. We'll go to a buy or crap segment for the 44 of you who are left, who will probably be 32 in about 10 seconds now that I said that. Let's do a buy or crap segment. I'm going to bounce out of Discord.
Yeah, Coda, you've been
Everyone,
fucking great. We're gonna bounce out of here. You have yourself a good night, dude. Fucking
You
hail
too.
to you.
Hail, bon voyage.
Au revoir.
All right, don't speak, Fleshy. Don't say a word. Don't even say yes. Oh, you're gone already. I just unmuted you, so tomorrow night when we play video games, I won't have to unmute you again. So, so yeah, Coda was pretty badass. Eddie was badass. That was a good conversation, guys. I enjoyed that. And as Eddie said, Coda gives good call. Very true. He gives good call. I enjoyed Coda. And it's not just because he kissed my ass, although that does help. And he didn't kiss my ass. I'm just being funny, Coda. So for the 45 of you, actually we got one more person that was here when I said it before. For the 45 of you people here that remain, it's time for the buy or crap section of the live stream. We do appreciate that you guys are here just hanging out, and we appreciate that you hang out a little bit more. So if you don't mind, just hang out for 5 more minutes and let me tell you all about the wondrous products that I have for sale, the different things. If you're new here, if you're interested, you hear me talking about Become the Maelstrom. You hear me talking about maybe Shadownomicon or my other book, The Infernal Vampire's Handbook. Let me hang them up on the screen for a minute with no light. So this has Become the Maelstrom. It is my first book. Eventually there's going to be a version 2 and some updates and everything. It's a big, fat, honking, 160,000 word, start to finish book for both the neophyte, which is the beginner, to the intermediate levels of Magic. I would also say there's things in there for more advanced people who just want an interesting perspective on a few things. But that's what it is. It is my answer to the complete book of witchcraft or something. It's my version of that. Some people like the complete book of demonolatry, but it doesn't tell you half the things I tell you. It tells you different things. But they would go well together, actually. Complete book of demonolatry, which I didn't write, and this. They would actually go well together, because this will tell you how to do the rituals. And this will tell you the wheres and the whys of these psychological things going on. And it will get you into a different state. And it also explains what this Mamma Jamma is right here. Everyone goes, is that your trinity of manifestation? And I go, it's a stand-in for it, but that's not what it is. So if you want to know what that is, you'll get it. Eddie says it's a girthy book. I would agree. I've had girthier ones, but it's a good size. A polite.
Talking about Become the Maelstrom?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if girthy is the word I would use, because it's not the biggest book on the shelf, but it is fucking dense with info.
Well, people look at it and they go, well, why is such a big page? Oh, that must have big text. Actually, the problem is it's all columns like you'd find in a D&D book. Like if you have a DMG, It's dense. It's all in there. It's all, and the new versions will probably be worse. Like, I actually kept it short. I probably could have kept going and filled in even more than I did. Shadownomicon is my second book. There's no other book like it. I mean that. There is literally no other book that has this in it. This doesn't talk about anything anybody else much talks about. There might be one book that talks about shadow people, but this is the only book of its kind. This is more of like a standard type of book. It's only one column. It's a lot shorter. I think it's like 60, 70, 80,000 words, something like that. But it is a complete grimoire for dealing with what are called shadow people. If you know what those are, this is the book that you probably want to look at anyway. You can purchase it if you like it. This book, there's things I like about it better than Become the Maelstrom. You don't have to own Become the Maelstrom to get this book. But there's certain things about my processes of magic which I don't explain in this book, which are only in Become the Maelstrom. And this is not for beginners. That is to say, the book is for beginners, fine. But the stuff in the last third of the book, the rituals and the things that help you contact things like that, are not things for beginners to toy with. And I am normally the type of person who would never say these are dangerous, because there are things that are malevolent. There are things that are dangerous. They are you. But there are parts of you you might not be aware of. So part of the magic is telling you they're scary. By telling you they're scary, I'm doing something. So remember that. There's a two side to this coin. I am both telling you don't do it, but also by telling you not to do it, I'm ensuring some of you will. So there's that.
It's just like, I always forget but Liber Lilith, I think Eddie's talked about it before, just like, especially don't do Ritual 23.
What? Wyatt, which book was in Barnes & Noble? Probably not the one you think, because I said the one that was mine, the one that wasn't. If you're talking about the complete book of Demonolatry, I didn't do that, but the other two I just showed you I did. This is my third book, and this is The Infernal Vampire. That's my wife's hand on the cover. She has a pretty cool looking hand, especially when I doctor it up on Photoshop and put a mouth in it. This is a thin book. It's not a very complicated book because, well, the people who don't know my work buy this book and go, well, this doesn't say that much, because it's like an add-on supplement to Become the Maelstrom, okay? It works best in tandem with that. If you understand it's to Become the Maelstrom, this is a little easier. This has a lot of conversation about vampirism from the energy perspective. It is not a book, really, Wyatt. Shout out, tell me what. Well, I don't want you to tell me your address, but dude, just tell me this. Tell me the town it was in. Even that would be a fucking badass thing, because I love knowing if my books are on shelves, because I know they get put on shelves, but Amazon doesn't tell me what shelves they end up on. So like every month I'll sell between like 5 and 10 to bookstores, and I'm like, well, it's a big world, so I wonder where they ended up, because they don't tell you. I don't even care like what town it's in, but just knowing that they went to that bookstore is cool. So the Infernal Vampire Handbook is from a perspective of someone who actually practiced vampirism for real, as a magical practice and as a way of life for a little while, mostly along the energetic spectrum. Okay, so that's a lot of what's in here. What's that?
Barnes & Noble is selling Infernal Handbook.
Are they? Oh, cool. Barnes & Noble. Well, I think Barnes & Noble and Amazon are linked at the tit, aren't they? So that doesn't surprise me. But the fact that it's, if they have it on the shelf, though.
Shadownomicon's not listed on their website.
Isn't? Okay, so that's interesting. So they didn't want it, but they wanted the vampire one. That's interesting. So some of these you can order through Barnes & Noble, apparently, my wife's basically showing me. Also, if you like my work and you really, really want to bang the support button, if you want a copy of one of my books and you want it signed with the dedication in it, to you in ink with my sigils in it and everything. Sometimes I include extra stuff. Go to the Etsy. If you see on Nina put the link, and it's in the description as Linktree, it's the D.H. Thorne Linktree. If you go to Etsy, if you go to Mind the Shadows, I offer signed copies of all my books. So you click the buy button on that. You can send me a message on what you want it to say, and then I'll put that in there. So, or you don't, I just make something up for you, So if you're interested, go to that Etsy store. If you go to that Etsy store, you're also going to find mirrors that my wife creates when she can. It's a bit of a job, so she only gets so many out a month, but she does them pretty much like every 2 to 3 weeks. She gets a whole new batch of like 5, 6, 7 of them up. They're pretty badass. I don't have one next to me to show you guys, but if you guys go to the Etsy store you will find them. Along with that, oh my gosh, am I selling myself enough yet, Fleshy? I think I'm hitting the sellout
I mean,
zone again.
you've got a lot of stuff going on.
I do. That's because, like, you know, when you're poor, you do have to do something, say the spirits, to make money. So I also sell, for those of you like Japanese martial arts and weapons, this is called a kanabo. It is a type of club that was used to smash the armor of the Japanese. It's also a good potential ritual offering to Japanese oni, which are demon in their type of yokai. You can use these, and I've made 3 of them to start with. They're all for sale right now. This is just one example. They're all hand carved with, you know, things like, well, you have kanji on there, and they're all for different spirits and things you can use them. Or you don't want somebody busting in your house and you want to have something, you know, a zombie's breaking in, this will do the job. I think, what did I say, Flesh? If I ever hit somebody with this, I'm going to every jail in the country, because this is mean.
That sounds
this
right,
is,
yeah.
Yeah, this is mean. I wouldn't. Yeah, this is like the Seagulls song. You know, the fucking bad lip reading or whatever it was. The Seagull song.
Oh,
it's my beater. It's when he says, "Let me get my beater." This is always what I think of. I grab this thing. This is my beater right here. This is. You don't need many whacks with this fucker to make a tally. You know what I mean?
You're a psycho wiener. Let me grab my beater.
Yeah, that was it. So
yeah.
Then last but not least, if you go to my Teespring, actually second to last but not least, if you go to my Teespring, if you like this tapestry, I have this plus one I haven't shown off in a while. It's my Lucifer one. That one always sells well. Very popular. It's a beautiful tapestry of Lucifer's sigil with an abbreviated incantation you can use to just as a prayer to him or whatever that you want to use it for. It's my favorite one, but this one is usable in ritual. You can get the big version. It's over 100 inches across, 100 inches long. You can sit in the damn thing and use it as your ritual circle if you want. So I use this as a tapestry on the wall in ritual. You can use it as a table covering, as a floor covering, or just an ornament. But it helps if you know what it means. So that's what Become the Maelstrom's for.
Yeah. How big is that one, real quick? Because I was actually going to order one, and I wasn't sure on the sizes.
I don't remember the inch measurement, but it's the smallest one. So,
oh, okay. Damn, that's still pretty fucking big. Okay.
Yeah, I can measure it right now.
Gives me
Actually,
an idea.
I'm a nerdy guy, so I always have a fucking measure. 55 inches that way, and probably the same. 48 or 50 that way. So it's like 50 something by, like 55 by 48, something like that. And that's the small one. The big one's 100 long. So on the long side. So
Lowland says he's got a zombie cat in a box he's afraid to open. Will this box help? It sounds like you need Schrodinger, my friend.
I think that's Schrodinger's dead. Give me a minute. It'll come out. Schrodinger's banger. That's what that is. That's Schrodinger's banger. When the cat's in the box and you let it out and it's a zombie, bop, that fucker's gone. Now we're on last. Oh, and there's also T-shirts. There's T-shirts and posters, and there's all kinds of stuff. All you 41 people there on Teespring, thank you for being here. And the very last thing that I would like to offer is my Patreon. Now, normally Patreon is just to give me your money and everybody's happy. And I actually slacked off on Patreon because I don't like making content that only 20 or 30 people is ever going to see. So what I ended up doing was I retooled it so it's more of like a donation site now. But there's one thing that I offer through it that nobody else does. For $20 a month, I have a weekly live group video class where it's a lot less like a frat party. It's a lot more like an actual classroom. And we do meditation together. We do ritual together. We do all kinds of stuff together as an actual like online Hogwarts with D.H. Thorne's brand of ideas. And so far we had some really good classes. We had 4 classes so far. The third class was the highlight of that one was everybody got to create something called a chi ball or a psi ball. And it is the most vivid thing you basically people's eyes went, what? When they first experienced this. And it is a literal way for you to feel, it's not physical, but you'll swear it's a physical sensation of energy. You will feel an orb between your hands. You will feel this thing like it's real and solid. I don't know if Tatum's still here, but she got to participate in it, and she was one of the people who it's like, wow, yeah, this is something I've never done before. And something like that can be used in ritual, and I teach all of these things through it. But here's the good thing. If you want to join the class, but you don't like the schedule, it's on a Monday from 3 to 5. You can't make the schedule. I record every single class, and I put them up later on a private YouTube link so that you guys can see them and watch them later. So this way you can catch up if you miss a class. You can watch all the ones that have happened so far. Eventually, at some point in the future, I'll be taking those and turning them into probably professional videos of some sort that are for sale or part of some collection or something. But for now, if you join that Patreon, you can get access to all of them for 20 bucks a month. Nobody's going to beat that guy. Anybody else with a Magic class is going to be hundreds and hundreds and hundreds a month. It's 20 bucks a month. I mean, beat that, you can't. And I've already got a bunch of people on it. So it's pretty good. If it fills up, I may have to make some other schedule slots, but we'll see. And the Neon Cicada says, do you vend through? Yes, with Amazon, though, it's only the books. I haven't decided to do vending because the products we make, I'd rather just do through Etsy. And the books I do are all through Amazon. At some point, I'm going to be going to Lulu and get some hardcover versions of things done when I have the energy to rewrite and second edition them. So second edition will probably come in both paper and hardcover. And one of the hardcover will probably be exclusive to Lulu because I just can't I don't. The other option is if I go to somebody and get a what do they call it, a Kickstarter going. So if I get a Kickstarter going and I go to somebody with an order for like 100 of them off the bat, then I might be able to do a better hardcover through a private publisher. I don't know. Maybe I'll even ask Eric EA Quetting if he's got somebody, or maybe he'll do it for me or connect me. So we'll see. I might do a Kickstarter, but there's got to be a demand for it first. And I don't think I'm quite there yet. I've only got 3,000, 4,000 subs. I'm not that guy yet. So maybe someday. So, all right, guys. 41 of you stuck it out through the buy our crap segment. I could probably sell you on more crap. Fleshy, I think, is that all the crap I sell? Ritual services and all that good shit too.
Oh, yeah.
If you're interested in that, you can go to my website at, it's in the link tree. You can go to mindtheshadows.com, which will tell you that I'm stealing your information because I couldn't afford the SSL certificate last time. So it's not on it, but you don't need that. Go to the link tree. It gives you the direct link to the blog site. You won't get that problem. And if you're interested, you can check out my services that I offer through there. You can email me about it and we can talk about it. I don't do them up front. What I do is we do a consult. If I feel a ritual is required, then I'll do one. If not, the consult's all you need. So if you're interested, you can check that out too. So, okay, Flesh, I think I sold out enough for one night. I think that's it. Did I do it all? All 40 of you who are left, you probably already know my products. Did I finish everything?
I think you got it out of your system.
Buy my crap. Buy my crap, everybody. Buy my crap so I can eat. I'm getting skinny.
Sounds like a mantra.
I'm getting skinny, guys. I lost 74 pounds. I need you to feed me, guys. Buy my crap.
I've been fucking impressed with your progress, by the way.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
You look like a different dude.
I know. I heard that. I've heard that. In fact, that was supposedly one of the ways the ninja would disguise themselves in some of the old traditions. They would take these special food balls that they would make out of like a combination of seeds and crap. And it would be just enough calories and nutrition so they wouldn't starve to death, but it would emaciate them over time. So over a couple of months, they could get so emaciated, they'd look like a different person and they could better do a disguise. Pretty fucking wild. So I'm kind of trying my own version of that. It's basically, instead of looking like a fat bastard, I just want to look like a regular bastard. So hopefully that works. Whew. Okay. I think any of my haters and snarky motherfuckers want to tell me if I forgot anything to sell, because I feel like I forgot some things, but I guess that's it. More deals that you can whack with a stick, says Eddie. You know what, Flush? That was what it was. Maybe that's what April was asking me. So there was a video she had in mind. I really want to do that fucking off-the-wall commercial, ShamWow style with you, where like I'll have you act out the guy who doesn't do magic going through his life being miserable. I'm like, is this you? Are you tired of doing these things? Blah, 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 blah. Try magic today from D.H. Thorne's Become the Maelstrom. And just make this really fucking bad ad.
I haven't forgotten about it. I would love to do that, especially since we played Dangerous Wild or whatever the fuck that game is. Like, the ads in that game are so great. If I could even get close to that, that would be an accomplishment.
Yeah, the Savage Journey to the Savage Planet. That was it. And I think somebody asked, the consult. The consult fees are $100 right now, but they last for almost 2 hours sometimes. It's at least an hour, guys. It's about an hour unless you're done. Like if you're tired of talking, I do whatever needs to be done. Sometimes tarot, sometimes just talking to you. And that's required for all the major ritual work. You'll see that on there. I have rituals that I will do with just a text conversation. In other words, you email me the details and I will consider doing it. Those are the affordable rituals. The reason I'm willing to do those is because it's quite literally much simpler. It is not me putting in the energy, intention, and time to really solve your problem with you. The other ones are about, I shouldn't even say solve your problem, meeting your needs is what those others are for. These are for, you want me to be an intermediary for the spirits for you or do something like a candle spell for you. I don't need as much confirmation that you need help with those. If you come to me and you're willing to pay the fee for an affordable ritual and your situation sounds justified, I'll give it a whack, right? It's like buying a magical lottery ticket, basically. I'm not saying it's that useless. I'm saying it's something I feel okay with putting my energy into. But if you want me to dedicate myself to your situation and really put everything into it, that's a consultation ritual. That's got to be more expensive because I'm really putting in a lot more. Ask anybody who's used my services. I don't just send you pictures. In none of this do I send you pictures. I create for you a ritual video that shows from start to finish the ritual. You see everything in it. You see the good and the bad. You see the channeling if one happens. And it's just yours. Nobody else sees it. So I'm not like these other guys that will just take a picture of the ritual for you. And who knows what ritual that was a picture of, guys. Let me be honest. Be careful when you're using these people out here because there's a bunch of jokers out there. They will set up their altar and make it beautiful and they'll take 50 pictures of it from different angles with different stuff on it. And then when you ask them for a ritual, they'll just send you the picture a week later and say, I did it. Don't be that stupid. You go to people like me. EA does a good job. A lot of EA's people do good jobs. Go to people who are going to either videotape the ritual or even do it live with you. Or if they do send you pictures, there's some kind of strong evidence that it's more than just a posed photo picture. Because that bothers me. It's always bothered me. I feel like you should be entitled to see the ritual done in first person as if you're there. Because normally, under any normal circumstance, I'd want you there. If you lived around me, I'd come to your house, or you'd come to mine, or we'd go to a sacred space, and we would do it together. Because me doing it for you, without you involved in any way, shape, or form, I don't think do anything at all. I think you need to be a participant. So if you need that help, or if you need that service, that's the way to get it done. And I'm very picky. Like, that's something Behemoth X I also respect the same way. He's very picky. He only does it for the people who he really feels needs it. His prices are high for that reason, and he sends you a video of the whole thing. So that to me is the gold standard. That's not even the gold. That's the entry level. If people aren't videotaping the ritual for you personally, I don't feel comfortable. I wouldn't take a ritual for somebody if I didn't see it from start to finish. I wouldn't take it. I would say, no, I don't. For all I know, you're lying to me. Or you did the ritual, but how do I know that you actually made contact with anything? How do I know that you didn't just read from a book? I want to feel the energy. So I think that's good, right, Fleshy? I think I'm done. I think I'm done selling.
I think so. And so selfishly,
I felt the dollar. I felt the dollar. Yeah, me too. So, guys, I'm gonna say goodnight. Fleshy, say goodnight. I'll shut up.
Good night, everybody. We appreciate all you motherfuckers in here. Shaman, Lucas Foes, Nina the Mystic. Everybody, check out Nina the Mystic's channel if you haven't. She also does a lot of really great magic work, and she's always so supportive around here. So please check her out.
Nina's awesome. Check out Camilla's Random. Occasionally she posts cool videos of me and her, or her and the birds and the animals. And we've got a great episode where we made cheesecake. And I think we did one with well, it wasn't just cheesecake, it's keto cheesecake. If you guys are curious how I lost 74 pounds so far, keto. So I wish I got paid for every time I said keto. I wouldn't need to sell anything else. So, all right, guys, there's 39 of you. I'm sure none of you guys are new. So thank you all for being here. We love you all. And thank you for the time.
Yeah.
And what's our goodbye phrases?
Tell your friends and warn your motherfucking enemies. Hail
Mind
yourselves.
the shadows. Ooh, that's what you're adding to it. Hail yourself. I like this. The Osiris fucking devil horn. Fucking I love it. Good night, everybody. And we are done.